Okay, boys, so today we're going to be doing our Regulation F tier list. The format is officially around 2 weeks old and unofficially about a month old. Now look, for anyone who's been around the channel the last couple of weeks, I'm sure you already know, but your boy has been absolutely grinding the VGC ladder, and of course I've been studying all of the online events and the regional championships that we've already had in preparation for the Melbourne Regional Championships in a couple of weeks. Now, before jumping into the tier list, I quickly want to explain what's going on here. So first, we have the F tier, right? So basically, everything that you can see that is already in the F tier here, these are essentially the Pokemon that I do not think are even worth talking about. I'm sorry if these are some of your guys' favorite Pokemon, but essentially, I'm looking for Pokemon that I can take to the regional championships, and for the most part, these Pokemon aren't it. Now, moving over to the C tier. The C tier is essentially going to be for the Pokemon that have a niche but are outclassed for the most part. This Pokemon is still something you can consider, but they're honestly probably something that you should not be, really considering unless you really want to build around that specific Pokemon. Now, the B tier is essentially just the Pokemon that are very solid, and that should be considered for most teams. The A tier are the Pokemon that are, some of the best. These are essentially some of the best Pokemon we have in the game. And of course, the S tier is the absolute best tier in the game. These are the Pokemon that you should be, considering on every team. These are the Pokemon you should also be considering, when building, like, hey, I really need to watch out for X mon. This is a scary mon. I need to make sure I am prepared for it. Now, before jumping into the video, guys, for me, if you could consider commenting, liking, and subscribing, it would mean the world to me. The goal by the end of 2024 is to hit 10k subs, so if you could help me out there, I would greatly appreciate it. And I'm also trying to get all of my videos from now going forward to hit 100 likes, so if you could also help me out there, I would greatly appreciate it. Now, boys, jumping into the first Pokemon on our tier list here, we have Venusaur. Now, Venusaur is a interesting Pokemon. This was a Pokemon I had I had a lot of hope for. Oh god, I can't spell Venusaur. There it is. Had a lot of hope for this Pokemon coming into the format. Obviously it's a chlorophyll mon, which is pretty damn nice. Terrifier greatly, is like, it's pretty damn good on this mon, right? It's pretty decent. Especially, when you factor in things like, Weather Ball with Terrify in the sun. Its speed tier, though, really, in my opinion, is what kind of really lets this mon down, along with its special attack stat. Essentially, 80 speed's not bad, but the real issue this mon has is you kind of want to run a Modest nature. If you run Modest, you only hit 132, and this is just kind of underwhelming, right? There are a lot of Pokemon running around with things like, Speed Booster, Icy Wind on Fluttermane, and obviously Iron Bundle. There are also just a lot of, hyper-aggressive teams running around with Tailwind. And this is also a mon where, on the physical end of things, it just isn't really that bulky. You can really, be susceptible to things like Chanpow plus Dragonite. And because of that, while this is definitely a cool mon, it's got Chlorophyll, obviously, it's got Weather Ball. Obviously, he's got Energy Ball, Poison Stab as well, which I do think is pretty damn good. This is a Pokemon that definitely feels like it needs to be modest. And even with the modest nature, it still doesn't hit that hard. And because of that, as much as I love this mon, I'm going to say Venusaur is in the C+ tier. Moving on, though, to its counterpart being Charizard. Now, Charizard functions very similar to Venusaur in a sense, and that is because Charizard is also a Pokemon that wants to be in Sun, right? This one's signature, hidden ability is Solar Power. And again, very similar to Venusaur, this is a one that just wants to play in Sun. It loves, having Solar Power plus Life Orb, but unfortunately, this is not a Dynamax format anymore. So essentially, if you pair these two together, you are losing a ridiculous amount of HP per turn. Granted, though, you are gaining a lot of, damage in return as well. But again, this one's biggest issue really comes down to its, pretty lackluster speed stat and its pretty average special attack stat for a hyper offensive mon. Now, I would say the best way to play this one, honestly, is Choice Scarf. I do think it's a Scarfer. It is honestly pretty decent. I think Modest Scarf as well could definitely have a place, as, most of the common Scarfers right now are all slower than this. Obviously, when you think about things like Landorus Therian, of course, as well, you've got things like Urshifu, even Speed Booster Iron Crown. This one definitely does have a niche against some of those, but the biggest issue Charizard has is just the amount of fire types that really outclass it. Obviously, there are things like Chi-Yu that don't necessarily have solar power, but if you ask me, I would much prefer have a Choice Spec Chi-Yu over a Choice Scarf Charizard any day of the week. And because of that, I'm going to leave Charizard here in the C+ tier. Moving on, though, we have the final member of the Kanto trio here, and that is Blastoise. Now, Blastoise is actually a pretty interesting one. I think this one actually doesn't get enough love, but definitely, Game Freak also didn't give it enough love with the way its stats are spread. Essentially, this one is actually one of the faster fake outs we have in the format. It's naturally a lot faster than things like Incineroar. Obviously not, quite on the Rillaboom tier, unfortunately. But also has decent bulk, obviously a decent natural typing. But really where this mon kind of just gets let down is really its, pretty bad hidden ability. Why I would ever play Blastoise on Rain, I don't really know. This mon's real, main jobs here, kind of like Yawn plus Fake Out. It is also like a decent water spout mon. Like that is probably one thing you can maybe build around. It's like Choice Scarf in Rain. But even then, that still feels kind of underwhelming. Even if it got something like Scold, I think it could have been a much better supportive move. I don't think it does actually get Muddy Water, which is probably the way to go. But I do really feel like something like this is probably the ideal set for Blastoise. You could even honestly consider dropping Protect. But honestly, this mon is just It's super mid. Again, you could build around it if you really wanted. Like, I don't think it's the worst mon in the world because it is obviously a fake out mon, you know, a decent natural defensive typing, decent natural bulk, you know, it's got a spammable move in Muddy Water. Yawn is also really nice, but honestly, I think it's really just a C tier mon. Then we have Raichu. Now, Raichu is another pretty interesting mon, right? So with Raichu, it actually gives you, again, one of the fastest fake outs in the format. As a matter of fact, it is, you know, without a doubt, probably the fastest fake out in the format, right? Or, you know, there are things that are maybe slightly faster, but definitely not as good. What Raichu really has going for it, though, is its ability, you know, hidden ability here being Lightning Rod. And again, it has access to fake out. You know, has access to, you know, fast Nuzzle as well, which I do think is pretty decent. Even, you know, things like, you know, Electro Web as well are, you know, honestly not the worst thing in the world. Even like, you know, it's got some options. Helping Hand as well is pretty decent. But I really do think if you're going to run this mon, Assault Vest is probably the best way to run it. And you really need to pair it with Intimidate. But yeah, honestly, like, Raichu's not bad. It doesn't hit hard. It's incredibly fragile again. Its HP and its, you know, physical defense is so bad that essentially Chien-Pao Dragonite is going to run straight through this mon. But it definitely does have a niche as a fast fake out mon with, you know, fast Nuzzle. And of course, pairing that with a Lightning Rod. But I can't really put it any higher than the C tier. Now, for the two Clefs here, I'm actually going to rank them simultaneously here. And I'm going to put Baby Clef in A tier and Big Clef in B tier. Essentially, these mons do very similar things, right? Essentially, they are both here for redirection. The main difference is really being a Big Clef actually deals quite a bit more damage. You know, it's pretty decent with moves like, you know, obviously Moonblast and Ice Beam as well. Whereas Baby Clef here, obviously, it has the Friend Guard ability, and because of that, it's definitely a, you know, it's strictly a support Pokemon, right? This is a support Pokemon that wants to play with a Violet. Essentially, both these mons are going to run things like Follow Me. I think, obviously, absolutely, you know, absolutely must have on both sets. I do also think Helping Hand is also very, very solid. They both also get access to things like Life Dew and, of course, Heal Pulse as well, which is also very, very good. And then, of course, you know, you've got things like, you know, Ice Beam, Icy Wind, Moonblast. Like, honestly, they're both just really, really solid. As I said, Big Clef is a mon that you want to kind of use really with like Magic Guard or Unaware. You know, Unaware is actually also pretty decent into Dondozo as well. But yeah, they're both like pretty good supports. I do think Baby Clef is better just because like Redirection plus, you know, Friend Guard is just broken, especially if you pair it with, you know, some really strong setup sweepers. But of course, Big Clef as well with something like Rocky Helmet could also deal, you know, quite a bit of damage while also being, you know, pretty solid, you know, support mon here with Follow Me. Because of that, I'm going to put them in A and B tier respectively. Then we have the Ninetales forms. Now, I'm going to be pretty blunt. Regular Ninetales, this is a straight up C tier mon. I don't really need to say too much about it. This mon sets up Sun, has a decent base speed of 100, but outside that, it doesn't really do anything. Like, I believe it can howl. I don't even think it can actually... Can it Helping Hand? If it can Helping Hand, maybe that's something. I don't think... Yeah, I guess it can Helping Hand. Helping Hand plus Drought, maybe it's decent. But really, there is a lot better Sunsetter that we'll talk about later, and I don't really think it's worth running. But regular Ninetales... Sorry, Alola Ninetales... I'm probably gonna... I might move this up later, but I'm sticking in the B+ tier for now. Essentially, I think this is, you know, a very, very good, you know, Snowmon. Obviously, it has its, you know, signature... I keep saying signature ability. Hidden ability being Snow Warning, of course. And it also has Aurora Veil, which is very solid. This mod also just has really, really good, you know, kit, right? It has Moonblast, right, for a strong fairy move. It has Blizzard, of course, because obviously it sets up, you know, the snow for itself. Freeze Dry is obviously very, very solid. It also gets access to Icy Wind for speed control. And then, of course, as well, it gets, you know, a very strong Encore as well, which is, you know, a very good move coming off a mon that's this fast. Again, I'm very torn about putting this mon any higher. I have tested it myself, and I do really enjoy it. I think Ninetale's biggest issue is it's kind of feels like a standalone, you know, Snowmon, really. There is one, you know, mon in particular I'll touch on a little bit later that I do think pairs really well with Alola Ninetales. But really, like, this one has a very solid niche. I just feel like if there was maybe, like, another one or two really good snow abusers, this mon's, you know, usage would definitely go up. But for now, I definitely think it's just a solid B tier, and honestly could even be worthy of A. And once the, you know, the tier list develops a bit more, I might even kind of move it up. Now, Gengar, this is a mod that it actually pains me to put it this low. I do think Gengar really did kind of just get, you know, screwed over by power creep in this generation. When you have a look at Gengar, honestly, it hits really hard, has honestly a pretty decent speed stat. I really think this is a mod where it's like, I kind of think Game Freak may regret just getting rid of Levitate. You know, when you're talking about 2, 3, 4 years, 4 generations ago, 3 generations ago, when the power creep wasn't so high, yeah, of course, I think Levitate on Gengar was very, very strong. But this is literally just a mon that is like relegated to Focus Sash. It is way too squishy. It does through anything. Sure, it can pump out a lot of damage, but really, it's hard to get off that damage. You know, it's got Shadow Ball, it's got Sludge Bomb, which are honestly pretty good. It's also got access to things like Haze as well, which obviously in the earlier formats of, you know, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet was definitely good as well. But this is just a Pokemon where while it has a niche, it really relies on either one, like its old Mega Evolution coming back and giving it, you know, a pretty broken ability, or two, it really just needs it just really needs a format that isn't so powerful, and because of that, I'm just gonna put it here in the C tier. Now though, Alolan Muck, definitely the better of the two Mucks. This is a mon that absolutely pains me to put it this high, but it's B tier. The reason for this is one specific team that Alolan Muck is really good on. For essentially anyone who doesn't know how this mon runs, please don't do it on ladder. I've played it a few times. It's so annoying. It's so RNG based. But you go Muck here, and you got, you know, Power of Alchemy. This Pokemon copies the ability of an ally that faints. So essentially, you put this next to a mon, it faints, you take their ability, right? And I'll quickly just give you guys a rundown of the core here, just because it's, yeah, again, it's very annoying, right? So it's Smeargle, and it's, what's it called? The bird. Why can't I think of it? Flamigo? There it is, Flamigo. That's the one. So essentially, the way this mon works here, right, is it sits there with its leftovers, right? You know, you like maxing out your bulk. It's like whatever, yeah, bulk, yeah, great, right? Power of Alchemy, great. And then you're just gonna click this. You got minimize. You're just gonna click minimize, right? You're gonna sit there. You're gonna get your evasion up to +6, right? You're gonna sit it next to a Smeargle that has Moody, right? So anyone who doesn't know how Moody works, here it is. Essentially, at the end of every turn, you buff one stat by 2 while lowering another stat by 1, right? And this one's gonna sit there and it's gonna go, hey, I got Fake Out, right? It's annoying. All right, okay. It's like, fine, I got my Flutter Man. I'm just gonna click Dazzling Gleam. No, you won't. I got Wide Guard, right? Okay, that's annoying as shit. It's like, oh, I've also got Spore. Okay, that's great. I was like, well, it's fine. I'll just ignore the Smeargle. No, you won't. You'll follow me. This is a mon that is obviously, like, the way you beat this strategy is just pranks the taunt. But obviously, you know, you got things like Fake Out that can kind of mess with it, right? It's very annoying. And then, of course, Flamigo essentially comes in and says, hey, I'm Co-Star. Eventually, once Muck is, like, you know, once Smeargle plus your other ally is gone, you're going to get the Flamigo in next to the Muck. And he's going to be like, hey, I'm also really strong. And hey, I also click Wide Guard. It's just super frustrating to deal with. Like, it's unironically a good mon. Like, it sucks because it's good because it's like RNG based. Like, I've had games where it'll sit there and it's like I have a 30% chance to hit this move and then I'll just miss it 8 turns in a row. And it's like, damn, this doesn't even feel great. I don't know. The mon sucks. Don't play it. But it's good. I can't really argue, right? Alolan Persian. Now, this is a mon I honestly probably shouldn't even thrown it on the list. Like, it's good. Like, Alolan Persian has its, you know, it has its niche. Like, it has Fur Coat, which doubles its defense. And, you know, doubling a defensive stat, I think, in this format's really good. It also has, you know, Fake Out, of course, which is honestly pretty nice. It has non-priority, what's it called, Parting Shot as well, but it is pretty damn quick, which is kind of one of its, like, biggest issues. And then it gets Stab Foul Play. That's kind of what this mon gets, right? It's decent. It has a niche in the metagame. Probably, do I put it? Yeah, I think it's just C tier. Like, look, it's a good mon. It's just one of those mons where you're a Dark type in a format with Fluttermane. Probably isn't the best, let's be honest, right? Then we have the Arcanines. Now, I kind of want to rank these guys to get the same I did with the Clefs. I'm going to put Hisuian in A and Regular in B. The main reason for this, like, one, they're both, like, you know, decently bulky fire types that also put out quite a bit of damage. But, well, that's fire. I want to go Arcanine. But really, I think the biggest issue these guys have is honestly, you know, the competition they get from Incineroar, right? Now, regular Arcanine is a mon where it is known for dominating regional formats, but the second, you know, Incineroar comes back, of course, it kind of gets outclassed, right? But in saying that, you know, regular Arcanine is still, you know, decently bulky. It still hits pretty damn hard. It also has a very good speed tier. Obviously, it has access to things like Will-O-Wisp. Of course, it also has, like, you know, Terra Normally E-Speed as well if you want to run something like that. Its Flare Blitz is honestly really strong, and of course, it has Intimidate, meaning it's just a pretty decent mon. Hisuian Arcanine, on the other hand, though, just has a fantastic matchup into the metagame that the regular version doesn't because of the rock typing. The rock typing obviously gives you a resistance to things like extreme speed. It also gives you a much better matchup into a lot of the, you know, hyper offensive tailwind teams we've seen going around, right? In particular, the Tornadus teams. And it also gives you a much better matchup as well into the Qianpao teams, right? Essentially, this mon, the main difference is this move right here, Rock Slide, and its ability to obviously, you know, be a rock type naturally, right? Its stats obviously very similar. Technically hits a little bit harder and is a little bit slower, but really its typing is what makes such a massive difference for it. And this is also a mod I definitely think that we'll see rise up in usage as the format develops, because I think Incineroar is definitely on its way down, and because of that, Hisuian Arcanine as a, you know, intimidating fire type will be on its way up. Now, Poliwrath is an interesting one, right? So as a Swift Swimmer, I definitely wouldn't recommend this mon. Obviously it is a sorry, not a bulk up, a belly drum mon, which is honestly pretty decent. But the main reason for this mon really being on this tier list at all is its ability to match up incredibly well into Chen Power, right? That's basically all Poliwrath has going for it. It's like, hey, you can't I resist Sucker Punch, I resist Ice Spinner, and I resist Icicle Crash. I resist all three, and I have pretty decent physical bulk. That's all it really has going for it, right? I think it also gets access to Belly Drum, right? And it also gets Belly Drum plus Drain Punch, which means you've got a bit of survivability there. You just build up bulky, maybe slap an Assault Vest on it. You can even run, of course, Water Absorb as well, giving you a much better matchup into things like Urshifu, and of course a defensive Terra typing as well. Probably, you know, something that allows you to resist the E-Speed. Terra Rock could actually be kind of interesting, but that does seem a bit, you know, poggers. But essentially, yeah, it's a C-tier mon. It's not very good, right? Then Alolan Golem, very similar. This one has like a very, very small niche. Alolan Golem. Right, I'm pretty sure I've seen this paired up with, like, not Symbiosis, what's it called? Telepathy Trick Room Setters. What this one does, it says, hey, I just do this. I just do this. Banded, Galvanized, Explosion, right? You can go Terra Electric if you want. It's essentially there to say, like, hey, I'm really bulky on the physical end, right? I'm kind of hard to remove. But if you kind of let me just, you know, click Explosion turn 1, my friend's going to set up Trick Room, and I'm just going to, you know, try to take 2 of your mons with me. I'm going to put them really, really low. That's essentially this mon's niche. Because of that, I'm going to put it in the C+ tier. I think it's slightly better than what these mons do. And yeah, honestly, interesting mon if you're a hard Trick Room player. Definitely something worth considering, right? The Slowbro forms, I'm going to say they're probably both B, C+ here. Essentially, they're just slow Trick Room setters. They're kind of very similar, right, in a sense. Slowbro. Obviously, you know, Galarian one gets Quick Draw, where the regular one gets Oblivious. I do think Oblivious is slightly better because you can't be taunted, which I think is very good. And yeah, if you go Covet Cloak plus Oblivious, they can't really stop you from getting your Trick Room up unless they obviously imprison you or they just KO you. And this one's pretty naturally bulky, so obviously it makes it, you know, much harder. I don't believe, yeah, they also get Scald too. So having Scald back's obviously pretty decent. I also think they get Expanding Force as well. So that's like another small niche they have. But yeah, honestly, they're both probably just like C+ tier. The Poison one's probably slightly worse. Poison one might even be C tier. But they're just bulky Trick Room setters. That's all they really are. But finally, we got a pretty good one for the, I feel like the first time in a hot minute here. That's Golden Joe. Golden Joe do what Golden Joe do. I don't want to put this one in the S tier. I do want to be very, what's the word? Not lenient, it's the opposite of lenient. I want to be very strict with what I put in the S tier, because I don't want to just start slapping all these mods in the S tier. And we'll kind of explain that as we go on, right? But Golden Joe, I'm sure most of you at this point know what this one does. It's been around the, you know, basically since the inception of VGC for this game. But it clicks Make It Rain, right? It also clicks Shadow Ball, and it clicks Nasty Plot sometimes, right? This one essentially has one of the most broken, you know, moves of all time, being Make It Rain. It also has an absurdly high special attack stat. It is also, you know, good as gold. Basically can't be status, which means it can't be taunted, it can't be eerie impulse, all that kind of shit. Yeah, it does a lot of stuff. And it's also just a really, really good typing in Steel Ghost. It's insanely good typing. It's really good with choice specs. It's really good with like leftovers plus Rillaboom, setting up nasty plots and sweeping from there. Terra Steel's great, Terra Dragon's great. Honestly, this is just a great mon. It's A+, it's fantastic. Wo Chen, I'm not going to disrespect Wo Chen by putting it in the C tier. I'm going to put it in the C+ tier. This is a mon that unfortunately is really bad. On paper right now, it arguably would have the best ability of the Ruinous mons. But that's really where the mon stops. It has the worst typing of the Ruinous mons. Statistically, it's bad. This mon wishes it had like an extra 30 HP. Offensively, it actually can deal a bit of damage, right? It also gets like Stab Foul Play, which obviously in the format's great. It gets Giga Drain, it gets Leech Seed. Honestly, this one has a lot going for it outside of this shit typing. Like, there is nothing worse, really, than when you have like a support mon that like needs, you know, it needs its Terra, right? If you look back to Series 1, right, Hydreigon needed its Terra to play the game. But guess what? Hydreigon was one of the best special attackers in the format, so it was okay. It's like, okay, I need a Terra, but this one's insanely good, right? Terra Steel, Levitate, Flash Cannon, it's great, right? Wo Chen, you don't want to Terra your Wo Chen. Its ability, Tablet of Ruin, would be broken into the metagame if it just had any other typing. And I really think that is one of the biggest issues this one has for it. Because of that, it's C tier. Because we also rank that as well, it feels kind of weird to not do them all together. Where's the big power? We'll do all three of these guys here. Big Ting Lu, I'm going to slap him in the B+ tier because I think it's disrespectful to put him as low as the other two. Honestly, it feels disrespectful to say Mox is as good as Ting Lu here, but I mean, what can you do, boys? What can you do? It's the metagame we live in. Big Ting, this guy, Versatile Ruin, is fantastic. Obviously, really, really good into things like Flutter Mane. Its typing, honestly, isn't too bad. And this one has a lot it can do, right? I think it's a fantastic Assault Vest mon. It's a good Lefties mon. It's also really good with Citrus Berry. Of course, it has access to things like Stomping Tantrum. Heavy Slam is also really, really solid on this mon. I didn't even touch on it before, but Ruination is like really, really good. Honestly, there's a lot this one can do. Even things like Throat Chop are pretty solid. Good defensive typing. Its bulk is insane. 155 HP is absurd. 110 attack also is very, very nice. And of course, its low special defense is kind of made up for by its, Vessel of Ruin here. But what is this mon's issue? One, Specs Floodbane still chunks it. It kind of, is forced to go for things like Terra Poison. But two, sadly, one of the best mons in the game really beats this mon up, and that is the Urshifus. Urshi Rapid obviously can just go straight through this. There's no real Terra type this mon wants to kind of help it resist the water moves. And of course, close combat coming off either Urshifu sucks for it. Chen Pao also, like Icicle Crash, Ice Spin or whatever, they suck. Sacred Sword, it sucks. It's really hard for Ting-Lu to do what Ting-Lu wants to do. I've said it for a while though. I think this is a mon where come the restricted format, you're going to see it shoot up once we get things like Miraidon in the game. But for now, I think it is a very good mon. I still think it's pretty underexplored. But obviously, we're still early in the format and balance really hasn't been developed that much. Now, for my guy, Chi-Yu. This one's going to pain me, but I'm going to say it's just in the A tier for now. Obviously, I'm a massive fan of Chi-Yu for anyone who doesn't know. It is without a doubt my favorite Pokemon to use competitively right now. This might be even a bit biased. Honestly, I want to put it higher, but I don't think I can. But Chi-Yu, similar to its friends here, it has a great ability, right? Beads of Ruin is a fantastic ability. This mon's ability to pair with Fluttermane is absolutely absurd. Its ability to also deal a ridiculous amount of damage by itself as well is also absurd. 135 base special attack is nothing to scoff at. Really, this mon's biggest weakness is its very, very poor HP pool. But this mon just pumps out damage. Overheats from this thing, even like Heat Wave. There are a lot of situations where, like, if you get the Sun up, Heat Wave can just KO both opponents. But also is a really, really good matchup as well into Trick Room, which I do think is very good, especially with, Psy Spam rising up a lot right now. It also has a very good matchup too, of course, into Iron Crown, which is kind of the other version of Psy Spam that's kind of running around. But yeah, look, Chi-Yu, fantastic mon. I think this is a mon that will get better once the Power Knight stuff kind of slows down. But honestly, Power Knight is the kind of the archetype, sorry, that really keeps Chi-Yu in check. And for the last of the Swords of Ruin here, we have Chen Pao. Now, Chen Pao will be our very first S tier Pokemon. Essentially, Chen Pao obviously is notorious for dominating early formats. This is a mon where, essentially, when people don't know what's going on, Chen Pao Hyper Offense kind of runs straight through with, of course, its best friend being D-Knight, right? This is also a mod as well that I think is pretty solid into a lot of the new mons that came in with Regulation F. Not to mention, there are some mons that came into Regulation F that it really loves playing with. Mainly, the main one being Entei, right? Assault Vest Entei is without a doubt one of the best answers to Fluttermane we have now, and is also just a fantastic Pokemon when paired with Chen Pao. Honestly, this mon's just busted. Its ability to trade is just... It's absurd, right? You're talking about a mon that is just... Oh, God, I can't spell. Chen Pao, it's so fast. It hits pretty damn hard. Its ability's pretty broken. It's got Ice Spinner as well, which fixes up like one of its massive weaknesses, being obviously Psychic Terrain. Sucker Punch is just ridiculous priority. Gets, a great coverage move in Sacred Sword. And it's just a squishy mon that absolutely loves the Focus Sash, right? That's the Focus Band. We want the Focus Sash, right? It's absurd. Ghost Terror on this mon is also really, really good. And yeah, Chen Pao, without a doubt, one of the best ones we have in the format, right? Then we have the teapot here, Sinistra. Sinistra, dude, it actually feels really weird to like not put this in the B+ tier. Part of me is like, Sinistra's not a B+ mon. But again, I feel like it's really hard to say it's worse than Ting-Lu. This is a really cool mon, Sinistra, right? Essentially what Sinistra does best is it's like, one, a pretty decent Trick Room mon. But two, it is also just really good at basically pairing up with what I like to call raid bosses, right? So its ability, Hospitality, essentially when you switch it in, it restores, 1/4 of its allies' HP. And I think this works incredibly well on like screen teams, right, with raid bosses. Essentially, what I'm kind of referring to here is, for example, like Galarian Moltres on screens, for example, you get up your dual screens, right? You're parting shot out into your Sinistra heals it up, then you cycle into your Intimidate mon, you protect whatever on your raid boss, and then you cycle back in your Sinistra, heal them up again. Honestly, it's just super, super duper annoying, right? It also has Strength Sap as well. It's got, Rage Powder for redirection. It's obviously a Trick Room setter as well. And then, of course, I feel like there's something... Oh, of course, Machigotcha being its signature move as well is also pretty damn good, right? But this mon as well can also kind of be used offensively as well. You don't have to run this mon as some, just, hey, I'm here to kind of make sure my guy is healthy. You just slap a nasty plot on this thing, and then you start clicking, Shadow Balls and Machigotcha. And this mon all of a sudden is incredibly damn scary, right? Machigotcha also is a very, very good signature move as well. And this one's pretty well statted. Its HP stat is pretty average, but again, this is the kind of Pokemon you want to max it on. Its defense is really good, and its special attack is very solid. Its speed is, in a place where, hey, I can play, balance. I can also play on Trick Room. And its special defense, while it's not great, is definitely still, pretty decent, right? But yeah, definitely a B+ tier mon, I think. This mon, again, probably underexplored. This is a mon that could also see a lot more play as well come the restricted format, right? When you're talking about a redirection mon that has strength stat, obviously the ability to heal up mons with really high HP pools, I do think this is a very, very good Pokemon. And then we have the Paradox Beast. So we'll do the past form first here, being Walking Wake. Obviously Iron Leaves, you're not involved in that. Where's the other one here? Raging Bolt, here they are. So, I'll kind of try rank them all somewhat simultaneously. So, Walking Wake, I do think this is the worst of the group. I'm going to say it's mid and B tier. What's this one? This is called Gouging Fire. Gouging Fire is a very, very solid mon. I actually think a little bit underrated. I'm going to put him in the A tier. And then Raging Bolt, I think, is very, very good. Maybe a little overhyped. I think it's still absolutely insane and will definitely develop as the format goes forward. But I'm going to put it in the A+ tier rather than the S tier for now. So let's take a look at what these three mons do. Starting with, we have Walking Wake, right? Apparently, I'm not typing. Walking Wake. So Walking Wake, obviously, they've all got photosynthesis, which, basically buffs up their best stat in the sun. But Walking Wake's biggest issue, in my opinion, is this mon needs sun, right? You have a look at its signature move, Hydro Steam here. You're like, bang, in the sun, that power gets doubled, making it 120 base power. Absolutely insane. Also works in rain, right? But if I'm in rain, why would I click Hydro Steam when I can just click Scald? That's kind of my biggest issue with this mon, right? And two, like, yeah, in sun, it's great, but a lot of the time, people will run a set like this. And they'll be like, oh yeah, I get my, like, they'll go for the speed boost, sorry. They'll go something like this to get their speed boost. My opinion on this mon is if you're not getting the special attack boost, it's not worth it, right? I think you have to get the special attack boost to make this mon honestly worth running. And look, it honestly has a really good speed tier here. Special attack is also pretty decent. It also gets options like Flamethrower in the sun, which is pretty good. Terrifier plus Flamethrower in the sun. Obviously patches up your fairy weakness as well while giving you a pretty powerful stab move. Of course, it obviously fires off pretty big Draco Meteors. But a lot of the time people play this mon like super offensive with stuff like Life Orb. I think right now, if you want to play this mon, I think something like Assault Vest or Rocky Helmet is the way to go. If you are playing a dedicated Sun team, sure, go Life Orb. But I don't necessarily think that is the best way to play this mon right now. But again, as I've said with a couple of the mons, pretty recently at least, I think this is a mon that once we get Groudon and Koraidon in the format, I think this mon's usage will definitely go up, right? When, there's going to be Kyogre in the format and everyone's running Rain, right? And then you're also like running potentially Sun because again, Groudon, Koraidon are going to be two of the best ones in the game. I do definitely think Walking Wake's usage will pick up a lot there because again, all of a sudden, right, if you're running like a rain team and you slap Wake on it, they send out their Groudon, all of a sudden you're able to threaten one-shots with Hydro Steam in the rain, right? And because of that, I think this mon will definitely, it'll continue to develop as the formats progress. But right now in Regulation F, I do think this is the worst it will be for some time. Then we have Gouging Fire. Now, this is a really, really interesting one, simply because there's a lot this mon can do. It's very bulky, very solid HP stat, very high defense stat, and honestly, a pretty decent special defense stat. Its attack stat is also very good, and its speed stat is also pretty damn good. And this is a mon where its signature move, Burning Bulwark, is also pretty damn good. You don't really want to ever fake out this mon, because again, if your Rillaboom goes for fake out and burns itself turn 1, you're not really having a fun time, let's be honest, right? It also gets things, like Dragon Dance, which is pretty cool. It also gets access to Howl as well, which I do think is also pretty cool. Howl plus, booster energy, I think is also very good. It can be used as a very good support where like you run this thing with a speed booster and then all of a sudden you start howling up a lot of, very good physical threats. While also still being a threat yourself because you are speed booster and getting, quite a bit out of that, right? I also think this mon is really good as well with things like Breaking Swipe. I do think a set like this is like very, very solid. And then this slot will just go for say like Heat Crash, right? I do think sets like this are very solid where it's like, hey, I can, buff up my allies. You are probably going to run this Jolly too. I should probably add in. But yeah, you're gonna like buff up your allies with Howl. You can also fire off some Breaking Swipes to kind of, reduce their physical attackers. And then of course, if you ever need to, Heat Crash pumps out a lot of damage. Because of that, I think this mon is definitely a very solid A tier. One of its biggest issues is that there are a lot of very good fire types, and that's something that you probably kind of notice as the list goes on. The fire typing right now is probably the best typing in terms of like how deep the pool actually goes. And then of course, finally, Raging Bolt. Raging Bolt, this is a very cool mon, right? HP stat is very good. Defensive stats honestly very solid. Speed stats actually nothing that, nothing to scoff at here. But its special attack stat is really where this mon shines. And its signature move, of course, being Thunderclap, right? This is a great mon. I think there are like really only like 5 or 6 moves you would ever run. Thunderclap should be on every set. Protect should be on almost any set, unless of course you're running like Choice or Assault Vest. And then, of course, I think there are options like Thunderbolt, and of course, Dragon Pulse / Draco Meteor as well are very, very good. And then finally, the last one is Calm Mind. Now, this one obviously is very team dependent and very item dependent. I think if you're going to run something like Safety Goggles, obviously even like Assault Vest, then obviously you don't want Calm Mind. But if you're going to run this with like Lefty's Terra Grass and pair it up with something like Rillaboom or just like Amoonguss Redirection, I think Calm Mind can be very, very good. If you're going Calm Mind as well, probably just go Dragon Pulse here. But yeah, this one, without a doubt, one of the most frustrating ones to play against. Like a +1/+2 Thunderclap is absolutely absurd. Even, you know, like when they're running something like 180 Modest and they pair it with like Terra Electric, the Thunderclaps just deal so much damage. It's really hard to deal with this mon. Because of that, I'm going to, you know, put it up here in the A+ tier. I definitely think it's, you know, maybe not as good as Golden Go actually, but it's definitely in the same tier. Now, since we've done those guys, we'll actually do the Future Beast tier. Very similar to what we just did. I'm going to chuck them all together. And then we'll kind of talk about it all three at the same time. Paradox Virizion here, Iron Leaves. Definitely the most mid of all 6 of them, really, in my opinion. Probably going to smack it in the C+ tier, if I'm being honest. Again, this is a mon that probably gets better as the formats develop. And we get, you know, some more restricted mons, maybe once we actually get a good electric terrain setter. Which obviously is going to be a big thing with a lot of these, you know, future Paradox mons. Iron Crown, arguably, it probably is actually the best of, at least of the future forms. I'm going to slap it here in the A tier. And then, of course, my guy here, Iron Boulder, I'm going to put him in the B+ tier. Now jumping back over here, so we're going to go here. We got Leaves, we got Crown, and we have a Boulder, right? So Iron Leaves, look, this one hits really hard. Its kind of issue really is that speed stat being so average, while its bulk is like not bad, but like, you know, it's not as high as you probably want it to be. It also has the worst typing with the Grass type. Grass is just not a good move, sorry. This mon literally just dies to like any Scarf U-turner ever. But look, it's a, you know, its signature move, is it Psyblade? I think it is. Yeah, Psyblade, you know, in electric terrain, getting that 1.5 boost, is obviously really good. Very similar to Walking Wake, right? Where, you know, if this mon's in terrain, you know, getting the boost plus also getting the Quark Drive boost, it can be pretty good. But really, I think the best way to play this mon right now is probably just some like a Jolly support mon. It honestly gets pretty decent, you know, status moves, right? Like, you know, it can do a little bit, right? Obviously, it's got like things like coaching. You know, of course, it's got SD Torn. I think there was like something else that was pretty cool. Yeah, Quash. Quash was the other one I was thinking of here. Like it has decent support options, and I think, you know, again, once we actually get a decent terrain setter, maybe it'll be good. But right now, it's definitely the worst. Its typing is just so damn bad. Iron Crown, though, this is a mon I've actually used a lot. Probably the mon I've used more than any of the other Paradox Beasts, actually. And this is a fantastic booster energy abuser. This mon is a expanding force user, and it has honestly pretty decent stats to back it up, right? This is a mon where, thankfully, if it goes Modest, it outspeeds the Urshifus by 1 point, which may even, you know, eventually force the Urshifus to run Jolly again, which is really bad for their damage output. It also has pretty decent bulk all around, 90, 100, 108, very, very solid. And its special attack stat, while it's nothing insane, this is an expanding force mon. Your damage comes from your move, not from your stats. And it also has a pretty broken signature move in Tachyon Cutter as well. Basically, you know, hitting twice and not checking accuracy. Reason why that is so good is because this mon in terrain can essentially remove a Qian Power before it Ice Spinners, which I do think is very, very solid for it. And of course, the last, you know, slot kind of comes down to what you want. This mon really struggles to hit steel types, and because of that, either like one going for, you know, a Terra plus Terra Blast, or even something like Focus Blast is obviously very, very good. But yeah, essentially the way this mon kind of wants to run is he's like, hey, I'm gonna like pair this up with like Indeedee, click some Helping Hand expanding forces, and essentially win the game. Very, very good mon. And then finally, Iron Boulder here. Boulder's got a bunch of different sets it can go. This mon's stats are honestly pretty cracked as well. Its bulk is like average. I wouldn't say it's bad bulk, but it's definitely not good bulk. Its special bulk's honestly pretty solid. Its typing is pretty lackluster, but really what this mod makes up for, obviously, is its really good speed stat, also really solid attack stat, and then you pair that up with probably, you know, arguably the most broken signature move, probably right there with Iron Crowns. Actually, Thunderclap's also pretty good, but that is Mighty Cleave. Mighty Cleave is a 95 base power rock move that does not miss, obviously, or at least has 100% accuracy, and it bypasses Protect, essentially breaking it the same way Unseen Fist does. It's pretty absurd. There's also a mon where, naturally with the Jolly nature as well, it also outspeeds what is considered a very common Flutter Mane set. So this is a Pokemon where when you pair this up with something like, for example, Choice Band, if your opponent is not a, you know, a timid Flutter Mane, essentially, you're just going to kill it, which is honestly pretty important. And then, of course, as well, this mon is just very, very solid, right? It has a lot of, you know, a lot of strengths, in my opinion. I'm a huge fan of, like, the Clear Amulet set, and I also really like pairing that up with Sacred Sword, And then, of course, I shouldn't say of course, but Sacred Sword really helps out your steel weakness, obviously. But Swords Dance. I'm a huge fan of dancing with this mon. If you get up a dance and your opponent doesn't have speed control, Mighty Cleave is going to start KOing everything. And anything Mighty Cleave doesn't KO, Sacred Sword is. But yeah, very, very cool mon. Definitely worthy of the A tier. Sorry, the B plus tier. The A tier here was Iron Crab, but yeah. B plus, very, very solid. Hisuian Electrode, this is a mon probably shouldn't even be here. It's C tier. It's very, very fast. It has some utility it can have. I think like Chloroblast also isn't too bad. Obviously, fast Worry Seed, stuff like that. I'm not going to go too far into it. It honestly probably shouldn't even be on the B tier. Actually, no, I'm going to move it. It's F tier. I'm putting it there in the F tier. I'm sorry. Any believers, I'm sorry. Iron Valiant, this mon actually could be so cool if Fluttermane didn't exist. I think if Fluttermane didn't exist, this would probably be the best fairy type in the format. Its issue is Fluttermane does exist, and because of that, it's not the best fairy type in the format, and it probably also isn't the second best because it fills a pretty similar role to Fluttermane. And because of that, if you're going to run a fairy type that isn't Fluttermane, you should probably run a different one. Honestly, I'm going to put it in the C plus tier. I think this mod is very good. It also like runs singles, which is like funny, I think. At least from what I understand, it's very, very good in singles. If you have a look at its like stats as well, like it's fast and it hits goddamn hard on both sides. I think the biggest issue this one has is the fact that it's a mixed attacker. I think if this mon maybe had 2 different versions where it was like, rather than trying to force Gallade and Gardevoir to be one Pokemon, if they said, hey, here's a Gallade version, here's a Gardevoir version, one's a physical attacker, one's a special attacker, I think this mon could have been really damn good. But it's too damn squishy, kind of really relies on the Focus Sash. In saying that, very similar to what I've said in the past though, this is a mon where once it gets like, a terrain setter that's good, all of a sudden, if I could run, say, for example, we'll go Jolly. If I can go like Jolly and like that's my spread and I have a Focus Sash on it, all of a sudden I hit insanely hard. I'm really fast. And I also have like great stabs in like close combat. Obviously, it's fairy stabs, kind of whatever with Spirit Break. But obviously, it can still pump out a lot of damage, right? But yeah, as I said, this is a mon where it kind of wishes Fluttermane didn't exist. But because Fluttermane exists, I'm just going to put it in the C plus tier. Roaring Mid, a fan favorite, obviously, one of my favorite Pokemon. It almost feels wrong putting it here in the B plus tier, but I think I haven't explored it enough, nor have I really seen anyone really exploring it. It's a one that doesn't naturally fit onto Sun teams at the minute. It's not really good with Manual Sun because like normally this mon is a speed booster mon, so like if you're gonna pair it with Manual Sun, you're probably better off pairing it, with like naturally something that sets up Sun, right? And then you can run a different item. It also kind of relies on its Terra Flying, which is like kind of average. Like I think we'll get to a point where maybe in like a restricted format, it won't need, to be like a Terra Flying mon. Like you can see the Terra Poisons kind of start developing again. But look, it has a lot of different sets it can run, right? It's a DD mon, it's, Terra Flying Tailwind mon. Its acrobatic set's also really damn good. It hits super hard. Its special bulk is really solid. Obviously, it just loses to Fluttermane. It has to Terra in the face of Fluttermane. Because of that, it is a B plus tier. Now we have the Loyal 3. I guess I'll rank all 3 of these guys together. I'm going to go C+, C+, and B+. I think Okie Dokie in particular is underexplored. I actually think has a very, very good niche in the metagame right now. I unironically think Guard Dog plus Upper Hand really needs to be explored. It naturally outspeeds a lot of the fake out mons. You can also pair this with Assault Vest, and if you really run like pretty damn quick, obviously like hit some bump on your attack here and just pump it to defense. With Assault Vest as well, this mon's like, its natural defenses are really good, right? Its physical defense is pretty good. Special defense is nothing to laugh at. And I really think that Assault Vest Upper Hand could be the set for this one. I think it is honestly really, really good. I don't know why people aren't exploring it. It's definitely been in my builder. And I would not be surprised to see this mod actually get some results in the near future. Because of that, it's B+. But then we have Fezandipity and Monkey Dory, right? Fezandipity and Monkey Dory. Now, I'm going to kind of do both of these mods at the same time because they're both pretty mid, honestly. These are mods that both really want to run the Toxic Chain ability. Wouldn't want to really run Technician and definitely don't want to run Frisk in a open team sheet format. You look at the stats, this guy, super bulky, decent speed. You look at this guy, very squishy, decent speed, hits pretty damn hard. Monkey Dory is one of the better fake out mons in terms of like how fast it is, but why would I run this guy over like Insane or Rillaboom? I don't know. And Fezandipity, while Toxic Chains with like Icy Wind, Tailwind, and that's Tail Slapscott, Tailwind, and what's the other one I'm thinking of? Dazzling Gleam. While this set's honestly not too bad, especially when you pair it with something like Roost, simply put it, the format's too offensive. In a metagame where maybe it's not very offensive at all. It's very slow paced. Pheasantipity could be very, very good. But in the current format, when you have 82 defense and there's like banded D-Knights with Terra Normal running around, you're not going to be a good mon. I'm sorry. And same thing with Monkey Dory. This dude, like, if he sees a Sucker Punch user, he faints. You don't even have to click Sucker Punch. This guy just faints. I do think it's like a decent focus sash mon, obviously. But yeah, like when this mon was like, obviously first being released, there was like rumors that it was going to get Shadow Tag. Don't get me wrong, if it got Shadow Tag, it would have been good, because I also think it gets Parting Shot as well. But yeah, look, they're both just honestly mid. C+ tier, like they're probably better than all of these mons here, but it's really hard to rank them any higher than that. Archaludon, now this might be a bit of a hot take, but I'm actually going to put it in the A tier. I know there are people that are really high on this mon, and there are people who are very low on this mon. Essentially, I think it's really good. I think Rain's very solid, and I think Stamina in the current metagame is also really good. It's a kind of a mon that is forced to run Assault Vest, which is kind of, rough for it. But again, you look at these stats here, this is a pretty decently quick mon. Honestly, doesn't need that much speed invested into it. Loves maxing out its HP, and then you kind of just hit a bump on its special attack stat and call it a goddamn day, right? Something like that I do think is very solid. But what makes it like pretty good on Rain in particular is like one, it's Electro Shot, right? It's signature move, base 130 power, never misses. And in the Rain, it gives you +1, and then you also fire on that same turn. Pretty damn good. Then you also have access to Body Press. Body Press plus, Stamina can get absolutely out of control. If this mon starts tanking hits and gets like +3 defense, all of a sudden, a Body Press coming off a stat line like this is not something you really want to take. Let's be goddamn honest. And then, of course, it gets access to things like just a really strong Draco Meteor. It also gets access, of course, to things like Flash Cannon. And yeah, very good one. This one loves being on Rain, and Rain absolutely loves having Archaludon. Now, Hydraplin, this one, sadly, it's kind of mid. I think it does have a bit of a niche on Trick Room. I think it's just maybe a little faster than it would have liked to have been. Like, this is a mon where, like, maybe if Hydraplin was, like, I don't know, 20 base speed, it could have been insanely good. But obviously it has Regenerator, which is pretty decent. It also has, its signature ability here being Super Sweet Syrup, which is also pretty good. Actually, I think if Super Sweet Syrup activated more than once too, it would obviously be pretty good. But the main thing for this one really is Fickle Beam. When you look at its stats, right, defensively it's pretty decent. It kind of does want to play with Assault Vest. But its speed is also low enough where you can pair this thing up with Trick Room, and it can also kind of be your answer to, like, for example, things like Opposing Blood Moon or Soluna, which is obviously definitely one of the scarier mons in the format. Pretty decent special attack and a pretty busted signature move. Unfortunately, it kind of just doesn't find a great role in Trick Room. Again, this is a mon where I think in a format with less power, like potentially like an early Regulation 10 format, Generation 10 format, this mon could be really good. But yeah, outside of that, I think it's just like, it's decent, but it's kind of mid. Both the Executors here, I'm going to rank them together. Honestly, normal Executor wouldn't even be on this list if it wasn't for someone I played recently on ladder. Basically, what both Eggies kind of want to do is play under Trick Room. This one has Chlorophyll, which it normally doesn't use, and this one here has Harvest Plus. Harvest Plus, it is a just a slow mon in Trick Room, right? Essentially, this one here, it wants to play in Trick Room. That's it. Give it a Citrus Berry. Get the sun up. It's not gonna die. It also gets like some pretty decent dragon moves. Obviously, it gets Draco Meteor and Leaf Storm, so it can slap pretty damn hard. Obviously, sets up a Trick Room, and yeah, it does its thing. And regular egg, honestly, this one wouldn't even be on the list if I didn't get cooked by someone recently with Chlorophyll. And because of that, I actually just want to like show this. This thing actually outsped something of mine. I forget exactly what it was, but I'm almost certain my opponent was playing max speed. I think it also had like Hypnosis, which was kind of annoying. But yeah, this mon, I saw it like someone was winning with it at like 1750 on ladder. Because of that, C+ tier, I'll leave it there. Now, for definitely two of the most interesting, additions to the format, that is, that's our guys here, obviously Magma and Electabuzz. Now, I'm going to make this one pretty brief because they're, kind of got the exact same treatment here. I guess for anyone who doesn't know, though, these mons back in the day through an event, basically, they got Follow Me, and then they lost it, and then they got it back. These are two Violet Pokemon that have their abilities being Flame Body and Static, that also have Follow Me. Their bulk is decent, along with their offensive stats, as you can see here. Electabuzz pretty damn quick. He's got Follow Me, he gets Electro Web, and he also gets access to just a strong Thunderbolt, right? He also has Static too, which is obviously pretty nice alongside the Violet. And basically the exact same thing for Magma, right? It's got a Violet, it's got Flame Body, and it's got Follow Me. Same thing, its bulk's pretty decent. It's also got a pretty decent special attack stat. I've seen people run things like the Overheat sets. I've also seen people run stuff like Flare Blitz with like Mach Punch as their kind of last option here. Because again, 95 attack's pretty decent. But both these mons, they just want to be bulky and click Follow Me, and their abilities are pretty good with Follow Me. That's all there really is to it. The Weezing forms. Do we have the Galarian Weezing here as well? come on. Where's Galarian Weezing? He should be like... Yeah, we'll deal with him when the time comes. I'll put him in the same tier, I guess, when we eventually find it. Hopefully, if we do find it. Who knows, maybe the person left it off the tier list here. But Weezing, slap him in the B tier. Its ability is super annoying. That's about it. It has very specific niches it likes. Obviously, with its, ability being neutralizing gas. Defensive bulk's actually pretty solid. Like, max HP plus Will-O-Wisp is not too bad at all. But really, what this mon does best is kind of enable Pokemon whose abilities hinder them, right? Obviously, you're talking about things like Regigigas and Slowking. Of course, even things like Toedscool as well. I think it could honestly be pretty decent with. Unfortunately, we never got to see a low-powered format with that. I think Toedscool would just kind of, fold right now in the current metagame. I think one of the biggest issues, though, like technically a buff to Weezing, but kind of like a nerf to the best strategy with Weezing was the Booster Energy Roaring Moons, which I think were pretty solid. I think, again, that was better for that specific Weezing team. I do think stopping Booster Energy in general is a buff to Weezing. But yeah, just a solid B tier mon. Its ability is insane. It's pretty naturally physically bulky, and it's a Will-O-Wisp plus like Pain Split mon. I say it, not the worst thing in the world, right? Then we have the Tauroses. These two mons here pain me, right? So I almost feel disrespectful putting them in the C tier here, the C plus tier, but I'm gonna put them there. These are mons where on paper I look at them, I'm like, damn, I wish I could put this on my team, right? For example, Water Taurus has a really, really good matchup into, of course, Qian Pao. Same with Fire Taurus even, right? Both have very solid matchups into Qian Pao. Also, they've just got solid matchups in general into, like, a lot of really good mons. The worst part is they're just kind of outclassed by, like, all the other Intimidate mons that are, like, really good, right? Like, we have a look here. We got Aqua Breed here. We'll just go Tauros, Fire Breed. Oh, why did that happen? Blaze Breed, sorry. Like, you look at the stats, right? These mons are min-maxed really well, right? 30 special attack, you're like, okay, perfect. Like, they've done what they needed to in terms of min-maxing this mon, right? I think its biggest issue is, like, one, their base, like, stat total is, like, 495, which is really low. Their attack stats are, like, pretty solid, but they kind of got, like, hurting the speed tier. Like, if we have a look at, oh my god, what is happening here? If we have a look at regular Tauros, this mon, while it, like, doesn't technically hit as hard, it gets its ability, its power from some of its abilities here. It's got that 110 speed. And it's like, why does this get to be so much faster than its friends? I don't know what the hell's going on with my PC here. Yeah, why does it get to be so much faster than its friends? Like, base 100, oh, it's not bad, especially in earlier formats, was really good. And again, this is a mon that could really do a lot of work, I think, in, like, Generation 10 and onwards, in the low power formats. But as the power, kind of starts developing, these mons are just, they're not fast enough, they don't quite hit hard enough, they're not bulky enough. They're cool mons, I really do enjoy them. But I just think, yeah, in the current metagame with all these Paradox mons, all the, new legendary Pokemon that have come back into the game, they're just kind of underpowered, right? Then we have Gyarados here. Gyarados is very, very solid. Still one of the better Intimidate mons. Honestly, I could probably put it in A tier. I just haven't tested it enough myself. Very, very good defensive typing, obviously. Pretty good into, basically a lot of the mons that are pretty good in the metagame. Very good bulk, very good offensive stats. Just in general, one of the better Intimidate mons. You got the Waterfall set, right? You got like Waterfall plus Thunder Wave stuff. It's Thunderbolt. It's meant to be Thunder Wave. It's a Taunt mon. Like, it can hold Helmet. Honestly, just one of the better support mons in the game. Solid B tier mon. Vaporeon, kind of feel bad I even put this here. Vaporeon has like one really specific niche. That's Water Absorb, kind of beats like Urshi, and then it clicks Haze. That's it. I think it gets Scald as well. So like maybe it's there, then like Wish. So like, it can be annoying. It's like really, bulky on the HP side. You kind of invest here, get a bird maybe, and you kind of laughing. But yeah, that's kind of what Vaporeon does, right? Snorlax. I'm probably gonna say B tier. Snorlax's niche is very simple, but very effective when you can get it to work. I do think maybe it's a little underpowered right now. Its main issue really, again, like a lot of mons, is this defensive stat. It really kind of wants to just like max that out. But really what it kind of likes to do here is it goes Gluttony. You go for like something like, I don't know, like a Figgy Berry, I think it is. Yeah, Figgy Berry. And then you just go Belly Drum. Just go Belly Drum. And then you just, you just go Body Press. And then it's like, oh yeah, why not just Heavy Slam? Just to kind of, patch that one weakness. And then at that point, you kind of pray you don't have to go up against Steel types. It's really the only thing you can't really touch at that point. But yeah, the mon's pretty damn simple. He likes Gluttony, he likes this, and if you want, you can just click Recycle. Yeah, still likes decent Trick Room mon. Not really much else to say about it. Then we have the Galarian birds. I'll kind of do these one by one because they're all pretty decently quick. Why am I missing one here? Who's not here? Galarian Moltres isn't here. Oh god, I hope it's somewhere further down in the tier list. I don't really want to miss that, as I do think it's probably the best one. Galarian Articuno, gonna smack this one in probably just the B tier. Galarian Articuno's role is pretty simple, right? It's a competitive mon that can also function in Tailwind and in Trick Room. You know, I like it. I think this mon's really good. I think this mon's biggest issue is Chen Pao exists. But yeah, outside of that, you know, competitive is a very, very good ability. You know, special attack stats very high. Its speed is like honestly pretty solid. It can be the guy who sets you Trick Room. It can be the guy who sets you Tailwind. Freezing Glare as well. I've lost games to this thing freezing me before. It's very frustrating. Yeah, honestly, decent mon. Yeah, definitely worthy of the B tier. Regular Articuno, probably not as good as it was in the past formats, and because of that, I'm going to smack it in the C tier. This is a mon that actually, God, why do I always do that? This is a mon that really liked pairing with Snow. Why? Its bulk's really good. Special defense is insane. You know, regular defense is also pretty good. Likes to go max HP. You know, doesn't mind hitting the Modest Nature, and then of course just like a little bit of speed investment. You know, do whatever. It's a very, very rough set. But yeah, you have this. You know, you have your special defense being really good. You have your honestly pretty solid defense. You have the ice typing in Snow. You have Snow Cloak here, and then you go Bright Powder here. And it's like, hey, you can't hit me, and when you do hit me, you know, I don't take that much damage. It also says I got Blizzard, I got Roost. I'm kind of annoying. Yeah, that's regular Articuno for you guys. It's very, very frustrating, but unfortunately, you know, the power level is kind of at a point where like, hey, one, Snow's not that great, and two, yeah, Tachyon Gutter's just gonna beat you. Both Zapdos forms, I'm gonna smack them both in the B tier here. The Galarian Zapdos here is a very good, you know, he's a Scarf Defiant mono basically. I really enjoy this one with like Adamant plus, you know, his Choice Scarf. I think it's really solid. It's Brave Birds, it's Thunderous Clicks, with close combats all do a lot of damage. It also has access to U-turn as well, which is very nice for pivoting. Yeah, honestly, pretty solid, worthy of the B tier. And big, you know, regular Zapdos. This is a static Pokemon that also gets Tailwind and Roost. It can also click Discharge if you've got it next to something like a Garchomp, which again is kind of an early power format kind of thing. But you know, it clicks Thunderbolt. Really the biggest issue I think this mon has is it wishes it had Air Slash. Why it doesn't get Air Slash, but like, you know, these guys do, for example, is like beyond me. But Zapdos can kind of fire up a Hurricane, I guess, which is pretty nice. Stat-wise, pretty bulky, hits pretty hard, you know, solid speed tier. Definitely worthy of the B tier if you ask me. And then the Moltres. So obviously we have normal Moltres here. Part of me almost wants to put it in the B tier, but I'm gonna go C+. This mon's like main real niche here is its ability being Flame Body. Like Flame Body bust like Terra, like water or grass. It's like honestly really good for this mon. In terms of stats too, it's honestly pretty decent. It hits hard, its bulk is like okay. I believe it's also a Tailwind setter. It can go Will-O-Wisp if it wants. Obviously it's got, you know, Air Slash, the kind of move we were talking about before, that Zapdos really should just get at this point. Also fires off Heat Waves, right? I guess something I didn't touch on with Zapdos as well is it also does have Heat Wave, which is definitely a pretty good coverage move for a mon like this. But yeah, honestly, Moltres, I think, in a format where Urshifu didn't exist would be a bit better. But in saying that, Terra plus Flame Body into Urshifu is also pretty damn good. Alright, so couldn't find a Galarian Moltres, so I ended up just adding one in myself. But Galarian Moltres is, in my opinion, probably the best of the birds, and because of that, I'm going to put it in the B+ tier. I do think this mon is a little slept on still. Obviously, you know, one of its biggest issues is Blood Main, but of course, when we look at its stats here, obviously it has a very solid special defense stat and a pretty solid, you know, HP stat. This is also a mon that really wants to play with Citrus Berry as well. And of course, it has Berserk plus the ability to Terra into something like Terra Poison. Basically, this mon with Berserk, I think is really, really good, right? Obviously, you know, it doesn't have access to Roost, which does kind of suck. But obviously, I do think the Nasty Plot set plus Fiery Wrath is still very, very good. This one can also set Tailwind up for you as well if you want. And then, of course, it is also an Air Slash mon. Essentially, if you're in a situation where this mon is faster, its ability to flinch, obviously, with, you know, these two moves is very solid. But of course, it's very, very bulky. It's a mon that likes max HP. It likes pairing with Intimidate. And this is essentially the mon I was kind of talking about earlier when we were touching on Sinistcha. That Sinistcha really wants to play with. This is a mon that likes being healed up. It kind of wants to, you know, be as bulky as possible, right? So you run something like this, right? And then kind of just like pump into the defense stat. And yeah, it's just like, hey, this is a decent mon. It's a raid boss, as I said. It likes to play behind screens. You know, it's very bulky. It can be very annoying to deal with, and it deals very good spread damage. Yeah, I think it's really good. I think it's underexplored, and I really hope people in the future definitely kind of explore it more. As I said, it's pretty good. D-Knight, I'm gonna make this one quick. This guy is probably in the A+ tier right now, but I wouldn't be surprised if we see it drop off soon. Essentially, why is it in the A+ tier? One, its ability being inner focus right now is very, very good. And of course, number 2 is Choice Banded Terra Normal E-Speed is broken. You heard it here first, guys. It's good. It's good. This stuff here, it's good, right? It wants normal. You put this next to a Chen Pao, and this thing starts going burr. Yeah, it's enough said. It's attack stat. It's absurd. It's banded. It's Terra Normal. It's next to, you know, one of the best ones in the format. It's really damn good. The two Typhlosion forms, I'm going to say probably C and C+. Really, the main difference to them is, you know, the Ghost type Typhlosion is a Ghost type, so it can't be faked out, which is definitely very big. But it can obviously be Sucker Punch, which is very annoying. But essentially, what do these guys want to do? Is the exact same thing. So I'm just going to build it on here. You want to go Choice Scarf. You want to go, well, this guy probably wants to go Flash Fire. This guy's probably just going to go Blaze. But you just start clicking Eruptions. That's it. You just go Timid Max Max and you start clicking Eruptions. Obviously, regular Typhlosion is a bit faster. This one hits quite a bit harder. But really, the main difference is that Ghost typing, which I do think makes it quite a bit better. But yeah, both just pretty decent mons. Again, these are the kind of mons where in a lower power format could actually be really cool. In the current one, not so great. Speaking of not so great is Arzu. Now, I'm a huge fan of Arzu, but I do think there is a better Pokemon of the exact same typing. But really, Arzu's issue right now is just the way it kind of matches up, right? Obviously, this is one that really needs its ability being huge power. It loves things like Choice Band, Life Orb, all that kind of stuff. It's got great, you know, stabs in like Aqua Jet. It gets like Liquidation. It also gets Play Rough, of course, so very, very good stab moves. This mod also has a fantastic matchup into Urshifu Rapid Strike as well. Sorry, both Urshifus it has a very good matchup into. But this one's, you know, kind of biggest issue in my opinion is like, one, pretty damn slow. It's bulk. It's decent. Not really decent enough anymore. The power creep's kind of too high for it. And yeah, it kind of doesn't really have any like second stat that it likes. You can't really speed this thing up to be faster. It really, really relies on its damage. And that's kind of all it does. It's just a lot of damage. If it doesn't have its damage, you know, it still kind of just folds to things like E-Speed, right? So yeah, I'm going to put it here in the old C+ tier. Now this one pains me. I'm a massive fan of Politoed. I'm going to put it in the B tier here. Sorry, not the other B+, the B tier. It still has its niche as a rain setter. But really, it's kind of, I don't want to say outclassed by Politoed right now. Sorry, not Politoed, by Pelipper right now. But the archetypes Pelipper prefers to be on are better. I still think Politoed in general, by itself, in terms of a straight-up one-on-one, is better than Pelipper. But Pelipper right now much prefers playing with these Archelodons, where Politoed kind of wants to play like the slower rain games. Look, it's still a Drizzlemon. It still has access to things like Perish Song. If it had access to like, you know, maybe Scald still, it'd be great. But you know, it gets the Muddy Water, right? It gets the Helping Hand. It still does quite a few things. It also is a Hazemon as well, so definitely has its niche on rain. You can definitely make it work. I just think for the particular teams Politoed are on right now, you probably just want to run the Pelipper. Then we have Jumpluff, the old Joe UX9 signature here. I'm going to say this thing is in the B tier. I'm going to put it here with the old Walking Wake. This mon's only niche really is to play on Sun teams. Essentially, you look at Chlorophyll, you look at the speed stat, you're like, damn, that's pretty damn high. In the Sun, you outspeed essentially freaking everything. You've also got Tailwind, and that's Tail Whip Scott. You get Tailwind, you also get Sleep Powder. Pretty annoying mon in general. You can also, you know, slap something on there like a pretty powerful Leaf Storm as well if you want to deal a bit of damage. Obviously, this mon doesn't really have the special attack for it, but as we said earlier, big damage moves deal a lot more, right? Which is definitely something worth keeping in mind. And then, you know, in terms of the last one here, obviously, you know, Fast Encore, of course, is always fantastic. Just a really solid one to support those Torkoal teams here. And because of that, we'll slap it here in the B tier with Walking Wake, who I do think is one of its better partners. Then we have Umbreon. Huge favorite Pokemon of mine. This is a really, really good Pokemon into Psy Spam. But that's all it kind of really does, right? Outside of a Psy Spam matchup, it kind of just exists, and people just kind of ignore it, sadly. I think it's obviously really good with lefties. For its ability, Inner Focus obviously is also very good. Synchronize can definitely be annoying as well. But this one's main thing is it goes Snarl, it goes Foul Play, and then it kind of just sits there with like Wish Protect, right? That's kind of it. It's bulky as shit. You know, you're kind of just using these moves here, and it's annoying, but that's it. It's just annoying. You can kind of ignore it or overpower it, which is, you know, kind of one of the sad things for Umbreon. Murkrow, this is another one I'm going to put in the B tier, sorry, in the C+ tier. Murkrow had its time. Sadly, its time is gone. Obviously, when the game dropped, it was like the only priority Tailwind one in the game, but also it obviously has access to Haze as well. It's funny to think that this was once upon a time our counter to Dondozo's, which is definitely very funny. Obviously, it gets Foul Play, and then, of course, just gets a bunch of different stuff, right? I've even ran things like Drill Peck and Brave Bird on mine, just for certain matchups. But yeah, it's just you know, it's an annoying one. Icy Wind is also definitely pretty solid. Even Perish is not too bad. But look, it's annoying. It's got Prankster. That's really all it is, unfortunately. Slowking is just worse Slowbro. We've already touched on it. Just a Trick Room setter that's bulky. Skizor, this is a mon I had a lot of hope for. I'm not gonna disrespect it here. We'll put it in the B tier. The mon has a very, very good matchup into Fluttermane. That's it. That's all it's got. It's a, you know, decent bullet puncher. You know, it obviously has Technician. And of course, it likes like things like Assault Vest, also Choice Band. It likes to pair up as well with obviously Chen Power, which is a very good mon. It has things like U-turn. It also gets things like Pounce as well, which I do think is honestly pretty solid. Yeah, it's just an average mon. It really needs Terra. It likes to be on Rain. It's very underwhelming. Like, honestly, it probably should even just be in the C+ tier, let's be honest. But yeah, I think on the right team, you could definitely make it work, but you really need the right team for it. Heracross, though, I love Heracross. I'm going to smack this guy in the C tier. It is probably not worthy of the C tier. It's just there because of my bias for it. I don't think I've ever seen a Heracross do anything on ladder. If you have a look at this mon, its bulk is very, very average. Its attack stats very nice, and its, speed's pretty decent. Mon kind of has to be, like a Moxie Scarfer almost. I think in a lower powered format, like Guts could definitely be good. Obviously, it has like some decent stuff, right? It gets access to things like Rock Slide, obviously close combat as well. Of course, Mega Horn as well if you kind of want to pump out a lot of damage. Yeah, honestly, it's C tier because of my bias. That is it. Now, Kingdra is actually a really interesting mon. This is a mon that we haven't seen too much of. And I'm kind of surprised. Like, obviously, when you look at Kingdra, its stats just aren't there. That's its biggest issue in the current format. Is, bulk is average, right? HP could be a bit higher. Its speed's also average, but it's a swift swimmer, so it does really like playing in rain. But one really cool set I think you could see as well in a mon like this is even Sniper. Even like something like Choice Scarf Sniper, and you pair it up with a different mon that has Dragon Cheer. Because essentially Dragon Cheer plus Sniper means this mon's going to start critting a shit ton. And then you can just start firing off really powerful like Draco Meteors, right? Because obviously if you're critting, it doesn't matter, right? Also like, of course, to like that. Sorry, when I say that, I shouldn't say of course. You're lowering your special attack to -2, but then you crit, so it ignores that -2. That's kind of why it's good, right? So like Choice Scarf, Draco Meteors on this one with Sniper plus Dragon Cheer, I think could have a niche. Honestly, it's not B tier, it's C tier. Let's be honest. I think I was really disrespectful there. But also like Swift Swim has a role on a Swift Swim. It could be like a Choice Specs mon. I think that's like really, it probably Life Orb. Sorry, not Choice Specs. I think that's probably like the best way to run it, right? It's gold. I guess it gets gold. That's something. Surely it gets like Ice Beam as well, right? Yeah, it's like, I don't know, maybe some Trick Room. Sorry, some Rain team like this is like decent. But yeah, look, the mon's just average, right? Terra's not bad for it. I do think that Dragon Tier set could be interesting, but yeah, C tier for now. P2, a fan favorite. I'm actually a big fan of Porygon 2. I'm going to put it in the A tier. I think it is definitely one of the better Trick Room setters right now. Obviously, it's super, super bulky. It's probably the best Violet mon we have in the game right now. And yeah, P2, it does its thing, right? It has the ability to download, which is very good if you ever get a boost. Obviously, it likes to pair out with a Violet. And this is a mon where in the right hands, it can be insanely good. I've seen things like Terra Ghost go absolutely absurd on this mon. And then, of course, as well, you pair this up with things like, it's got that Bolt Beam coverage, with Ice Beam, Thunderbolt. And then, of course, obviously Tri-Attack as well if you want to stab move. Shadow Ball is also like definitely an interesting option. But don't get fooled. Every set definitely wants to have Recover, and it definitely wants to have Trick Room, right? In terms of stats on this mon, and so that's Tri-Attack, Trick Room. In terms of the basically way people EV this is obviously like max attack, so max HP, and then put some special attack investment and then a little bit of defense. Your defenses are so naturally high already that you don't really actually need to invest that much into them, and because of that, you can run it a bit more offensive. Because it's still really good, right? When you get a stat like this and then you get the download boost giving you +1, all of a sudden you hit a lot harder than Pokemon like Fluttermane 2, which is definitely very, very cool. And definitely one of the premier Trick Room setters we have in the format. So next one up here is Smeargle. Now Smeargle is a very interesting Pokemon because of, well, let's be honest, this mon is, it's very interesting. Smeargle can essentially learn any single move in the game, thanks to its ability to Scare Jump, outside of a very, very few moves, like obviously it lost Dark Void coming into Generation 9 and whatnot. But yeah, Smeargle is a Pokemon that essentially can learn any move, right? It gets Fake Out, right? It gets, Follow Me, it gets things like Spore. So a very, very interesting Pokemon. It's a Pokemon that also is, absolutely in love with the item Focus Sash. But we check out its stats here. As you can see, this is a very, very underwhelming Pokemon, statistically speaking. But thankfully for it, with a, max speed nature here, and, just a bit of EV investments. I don't know why that's being a pain in the ass right now. There we go. This one can get decently fast. When you get Focus Sash, obviously it helps out. And then it also has Moody as well, which is definitely one of the more annoying things that this Pokemon has going for it. Terra Ghost, also a decent Terra typing. But really, I think coming into Generation 9, this one has definitely fallen off a cliff. Like, not only one do we have Urshifu, which is a one it never had to compete with before, a naturally faster Pokemon that will just kill it through its Focus Sash, but we also have Open Team Sheet, and to be honest, Smeagol's like real, it shines its best in a closed Team Sheet format. And with, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet being Open Team Sheet, I do think Smeargle is very underwhelming. Look, I'm going to put it in the B tier simply because Smeargle can do a lot of different things. It's just, yeah, it's one of those mons where I think in particular on those Alola Muck teams we were talking about, it can be pretty damn decent. But outside of those, you know, kind of cores, it doesn't really do too much else. Hitmontop, though, is another pretty interesting mon. We'll leave it in the B tier for now. So Hitmontop notoriously in the past has always been a Pokemon that has got 1, Intimidate, and 2 is got Fake Out, right? It has, you know, a bunch of different options as well. Obviously, things like Wide Guard it has. It's also a Feint Pokemon as well. I'm trying to think of Close Combat, of course, as well, is obviously another pretty decent option. In terms of bulk as well, its defensive stats are very good. You know, obviously, you're going to try to pump into your HP stat, and while your attack stat isn't anything too crazy, again, when you have these really high base power moves, it's honestly pretty decent. This is another Pokemon as well that's very good with things like Focus Sash, Safety Goggles, all that kind of stuff, right? Really, the biggest issue, though, I think Hitmontop has in the current format is there are just a lot of other better Intimidate mons, right? Why would I run this mon when I could run something like, of course, you know, Incineroar, Hisuian Arcanine, Landorus, Therian, you know, even Gyarados, right? I think all of these mons kind of outclass it, and they all have, you know, slightly better niches than it. But still, I think it's definitely still a decent mon, and it's a mon that is obviously, you know, notorious for being very good in regional formats. I could definitely see a world where in Generation 10, if this is available, obviously, you know, some of the bigger Intimidate mons aren't available. It will always find a niche because of its access to Intimidate plus Fake Out. But yeah, for now, I'm just going to say it's in the B tier. Now we have the Johto Beasts. I'll do these individually just because I do think they all function pretty differently. Raikou for me is in the B tier. I'm not going to lie, Raikou is a Pokemon that has been in my builder quite a few times. It is definitely one of the better electric Pokemon we have right now. I don't necessarily think it is that good, at least compared to some of the other ones. It definitely doesn't love, you know, its abilities quite like, you know, for example, Entei does. But Inner Focus is still pretty damn decent, making sure you can't be faked out. But this one is also, you know, hits pretty hard. It's pretty fast with decent bulk. Really, its biggest issue, obviously, is its, you know, low defense, meaning you kind of want to pair this with an Intimidate mon. But regardless, you know, this is an electric type that gets Scald, which is definitely very interesting. Obviously, it also gets access to things like Thunderbolt and, of course, Electro Web. Being a pretty fast Electro Web mod as well, I do think is pretty nice. I could definitely see a world where this one is decent. And as I said, I have personally looked at it a couple times when I've needed a fast electric type. I do think this mod really needed Thunderclap, though, if it wanted to be anything better than B tier. I still think it has a niche, but it's definitely not as good as the other two. Now for Entei, I honestly almost want to put Entei in the A+ tier. I'm going to leave it at the top of A for now. This is a very, very good Pokemon, right? When you think about Entei, oh, what have I done there? When you think about Entei here, right? Entei is a Pokemon, right? Oh, got to spell it correctly. First of all, you know, Inner Focus, loves Inner Focus, obviously can't be intimidated. It's the only physical attacker of the legendary beasts. In saying that, I really wish, you know, Raikou and Raikou and Suicune would get new abilities that they can actually use. Statistically speaking, its bulk's pretty decent, you know, very nice HP, pretty decent attack, speed's good. Defense and special defense are kind of subpar. But this is a mon that obviously loves the Assault Vest and also loves being paired up with, you know, Intimidate mons like Landorus Therian, for example. Obviously, it's one of the best Inner Focus mons in the game. Defensive Terror on, a mono type like Fire is also very, very good. But it also gets access to this move right here, Sacred Fire. A 100 base power move, 95 accuracy with a 50% chance to burn the target. That's absolutely absurd. A 50% chance to burn anything in what is such a heavy physical meta is absolutely insane. And, you know, to close things out here as well, it's a very good extreme speed bond. Look, this is just, without a doubt, you know, very similar to Dragonite here, a fantastic partner for Qian Pao. Honestly, I'm going to bump it up. I actually think it is A+ tier. I think Entei is just that good. This mon is so good into Flutter Mane, right? As you said, these three here, this is like one of the best cores we have in the metagame right now. And Entei is the guy who really, you know, messes up the Flutter Mane, which is, you know, arguably the best mon in the format. And definitely something we'll touch on later. But yeah, Entei, A+ tier, one of the best ones we have in the game. Then we have Suicune. So for me, Suicune's a really cool mon. I kind of have it in the middle of these two. I'm going to put it in the B+ tier. To put it simply, Suicune it's pretty decent, right? If you have a look at this mon's bulk, HP, and its defensive stats are very good. Its speed stats are definitely pretty solid. Its offensive stats are pretty lackluster. But Suicune is obviously, you know, it's known for back in the day being Crocune. It's got the Calm Mind, right? It's got access to Scald too, one of the best water moves in the game. And then on top of that, it has access to things like Icy Wind as well, which is obviously pretty nice. Ice Beam as well if you want a bit of damage. It does get, not recover, it gets, what am I thinking of, Tailwind here? You know, this is a very, very good, you know, helmet/leftovers mon. Obviously, we've seen it in the past. Obviously, the old Resto Chesto Suicune. Don't necessarily think it's a thing in VGC, but it's still definitely pretty good. This is a mon that, yeah, as I said, it likes to click Calm Mind. You know, you get up at 1 or 2 Calm Minds, you build this thing very physically defensive, maybe have a little bit of special attack, and then all of a sudden, you know, you can start doing a lot of damage with Calm Mind into Scald. But it can also just be super annoying, right? It gets Tailwind. It also gets access to things like Snarl. That's something I didn't touch on with Entei as well, which makes Entei, like, really good into Side Spam. Obviously, Snarl plus Assault Vest makes you really good into a lot of those Trick Room teams. And yeah, Suicune, this is just a super annoying mon, right? With Snarl, you can lower the, you know, special attack stat. With Burn, you can fish for burns on their physical attackers. Honestly, it's just very solid. I think it definitely belongs here in the B tier, or the B plus tier. Now, Tita is a very interesting mon. I think I'll also put this in the B plus tier. Tita, very similar to Alolan Ninetales, doesn't really have that many partners to play with. Obviously, Excadrill's just been introduced into the generation. But Tita really is a mon that kind of stands by itself, right? Assault Vest Tita is definitely my preferred way to play this mon. I think Assault Vest plus Sandstream on a rock type is very, very good. And this mon's natural bulk is obviously absurd, right? Base 100, base 100, and base 110 on the defensive side. It also has a very high attack stat. This is definitely a really good mon. I do think Rock is very, very nice into the current format. This mon's biggest issue, honestly, is the Urshifus. I think if the Urshis didn't exist, Tita would be a lot better than it is. But look, Sand is still really good. It's a very powerful Rock Slider. It gets access to things like Knockoff now as well. Also Low Kick as well, as who is very good into things like King Gambit. But yeah, not trying to change the background there. But yeah, I do think Tita, it's a very, very solid mon. I just kind of wish it had more partners. I think if things like Draco Vish and Draco Zolt were in the game, we would definitely see a bit more Tita. Now I'm going to rank the Hoenn starters probably all together here, and I'm going to put them all straight into the C+ tier. I absolutely love these three. They're probably my favorite set of starters we've ever had, but unfortunately, VGC-wise, they're not actually that good. Sceptile is obviously, it's an unburdened mon. This is a mon that it just got Shed Tail, right? That's probably the main thing going for it right now is Shed Tail. But really, when you look at this mon, speed's pretty good. Everything else pretty bad outside of a special attack stat. Only issue is it doesn't really have any special attacks it can kind of click. Leaf Storm's nice. Outside of that, it's like Dragon Pulse, Energy Ball. I don't even know if I can think of anything else. Focus Blast is probably the only other one. Yeah, I mean, dude, that's bad. For a special attacker, it's bad. I think if they gave this thing Sharpness plus, like, switched its offensive stats and all of a sudden it had, like, Leaf Blade plus, obviously, Leaf Blade, things like Sacred Sword, Aqua kind of stuff like that, Sceptile could be pretty good. But really, right now, I think its main niche is probably something like Citrus Berry, Unburden. And then you just go Shed Tail and just go like, Timid Max Speed or something. And just pray to God that you can, start passing some Shed Tails around to the guys in the back. But then we have Blaziken. Honestly, probably a bit disrespectful to put Blaziken in the same tier. I do think Blaziken is probably the best of these three. Clear Amulet, definitely pretty nice. Speed Boost, obviously, is a fantastic ability. Issue with Speed Boost is this mon's so damn slow. Like, it wants to run Adamant, and Adamant +1 is just not worth it. And because of that, you really kind of want to go like Adamant and get it to +2 and really kind of just focus on the bulk of this mon, in my opinion. I think it's 76, right? You want to hit. Yeah, so I think like this is the kind of mon where you really just want to bulk this mon up a lot. And then at that point, you just kind of just hope, right? It can stick around, maybe get up a Swords Dance, which is ideally what you want. Maybe get 2 speed boosts up, and then from there you kind of just start running through, right? It also did just get access as well to what is it? Is it Flaring? Tempered Flare, that one. Got access to Tempered Flare, which is pretty nice. It's a pretty decent, stab move that doesn't miss. And of course, it also gets things like close combat. So Blaziken also kind of benefits a lot from the Terra type fire as well. But look, definitely decent. I think you could definitely build around this mon. It just needs a lot of room to get set up. It really needs to go like SD, protect, and then start playing the game. So it doesn't really come alive until turn 3. But if you can ever get it to turn 3, this mon is pretty damn decent. And then finally, Swampert. Honestly, I don't really know what to say about Swampert. This is just a bulky water. Obviously a pretty decent typing, but its ability damp really doesn't help it that much. It's just kind of an annoying water type. That's really all Swampert is. And because of that, I'm actually going to drop it to the C tier. Feel like I've been a little too nice putting a lot of these mons here into the C+ tier. And yeah, Swampert really doesn't have a niche good enough really to put it above the C tier, I don't think. Ludicolo, I'm gonna smack Ludicolo in the C+ tier. This is a mon that may actually see more usage. At least I used to think I might see more usage come the restricted format, just because of how good it is into Kyogre. But I do think it will kind of be outshined by Ogerpon Water in that regard. But look, it's a Swift Swimmer, decent special attack, not really. Its bulk's okay, speed is okay. It's a fake out mon. Obviously gets access to things like Hydro Pump, Ice Beam, and all that kind of stuff. It, likes to play with the Life Orb. But that's really it. Ludicolo is a mon that is not built for these such high-powered formats. In a lower-powered format, I think Ludicolo is very good. In the current format, I do not think it's all that. Shiftry, though, on the other hand, did just get a massive buff. This is another, interesting fake-out Pokemon as well in the metagame. Shiftrys. God damn. So obviously it had Chlorophyll, but I do think Wind Rider is probably the best way to play this mon now. And in particular, too, because it has a pretty decent attack stat here, paired up with the fact that it actually does get Sucker Punch. Does it get Swords Dance? Yeah, it does. So something like Swords Dance, Sucker Punch, I think could be pretty decent. I believe it also gets Leaf Blade as well. It does get Leaf Blade. So yeah, something like this could definitely be not too bad on the mon. I do think Shiftry's biggest issue, though, is like, while Wind Rider is cool, this is just such a squishy mon. Like, 90 HP is decent, but 60 on the 2 defensive stats is really bad. And 80 speed, while it's, you can work with it, ideally you don't, right? It's still really damn low. And yeah, honestly, probably just another C+ mon. Now, Pelipper, as much as it pains me to say this, I'm actually going to put Pelipper in the A tier. I'm going to put it right here next to Archaludon. These two are best mates. Pelipper has a bit of an interesting niche in the metagame right now. And that is the fact that it is a flying type where Politoed isn't, right? So, Pelipper is a mon where it kind of really likes to just play Focus Sash these days. There are other items you can run, but I do think Sash is the best. Obviously, it's got Drizzle, but it's got this here. It's got the Stab Hurricane in the rain that can't miss, which is very, very powerful into the Ogerpon forms, especially too because you can just kind of run Timid max speed. And while you don't necessarily outspeed them, this is also a Tailwind mon, so if it ever gets up the Tailwind, it can outspeed and threaten a one-shot on the Ogerpon forms, especially if they don't Terra. It is also a mon that as well has a pretty decent stab move in Weather Ball, and even too if you do change the obviously the weather on it, Weather Ball is still pretty damn powerful, and it also gets access to Wide Guard. Has a lot of tools right now that does make them on pretty damn decent. Because of that, I do think it's worthy of the A tier. Guardy, part of me wants to say Gardevoir goes into the C+ tier. I'm going to put it in the C tier. This mon, honestly, probably just isn't even worth considering right now. I think it's completely outclassed by its counterpart in Gallade. It's a mon that with Choice Scarf maybe can be decent, hits pretty hard. It's got a good typing of Psychic and Fairy. It does have access to things like Expanding Force. But really, its best abilities are probably like Trace or Telepathy. Like, as a Telepathy mon, maybe it's okay. But again, I think it's just incredibly, incredibly screwed over by the power creep, and because that, it is just in the C tier. Breloom, though, I'm a big fan of Breloom, and because of that, I'm going to put it into the B tier. This is probably a bit of bias from me, but Breloom is effectively the fastest Spore we have in the game. Obviously, Toad School is a bit faster than it, but Breloom obviously does not have the drawback of its ability. It's also a good, pretty good Technician mon as well, which, is something to keep in mind here. Mock Punch from a Technician mon, especially with, base 130 attack, is not too bad. But really, this is just a Focus Sash mon, right? It wants to run Jolly, it wants to be as fast as possible, it wants to click Mock Punch, it wants to click its Spores. Yeah, it kind of just wants to go first, sleep some shit, and try to deal as much damage as it can before it goes down. But yeah, Breloom, decent mon. I'm going to smack it here in the B tier. Slaking, I'm going to go straight C tier. I feel like I don't need to explain that much about Slaking. This mon, obviously, without its ability, looks absolutely insane. But Truant's really bad, and Truant really requires you to use something like Doodle or Neutralizing Gas. Because of that, it's in the C tier. Hariyama, I'm actually going to put this mon in the C+ tier. I think Hariyama has a little bit of potential. But the biggest issue Hariyama has, obviously, is Big Bad Flutter Mane, especially when you got this as your special attack, so your special defense stat. It's a one that's honestly not statted that badly. It also really thrives, obviously in our low power formats. But, Guts, it's got Fake Out, it's got Close Combat, right? Drain Punch as well. It can do quite a bit. Obviously, this mon's biggest issue is the fact that it is just outclassed by Brian Hands. That's probably the other thing. Paradox Hariyama is just better than Hariyama. But I do think it still has a bit of a niche over some of these mons, so I will put it in the C tier. Then we have Sableye. I'm also going to try speed this up as well. I feel like some of these mods probably don't need as much explanation as I've been doing. Sableye, I'm going to put it in the C pole. I'm going to put Sableye in the B tier. It has Fake Outs, it has Screens, it also has access to Gravity as well with Prankster, which is pretty nice. There were some really annoying Gravity teams in Regulation E I saw. I haven't seen too much in Reg F. But look, Gravity is very annoying, especially with things like Hypnosis. Because of that, we'll put it in the B tier. Illabize and Volby, both Prankster mons, access to Tailwind, things like Encore and all that kind of stuff. Very, very annoying, but really that's all they are. They're completely outclassed by a lot of the other top Prankster Pokemon like Whimsicott and Tornadus. Big Talk, I'm going to put this in the B tier, B+ tier. I'm sure there are other people that will put this higher. I am not a huge fan of Sunroom, and I'm not a fan of putting Torkoal as my Sunsetter on a Paradox team. But I can definitely, admit that it is still very good and probably worthy of being put on the level of T-Tar at least, as it does see a bit more play, right? Altaria, though, this is another C+ mon. I'm only putting this mon here out of respect as I've lost to it a couple times. I don't think it's good. It's a bulky mon with Tailwind support. It can also be very annoying. Because of that, C+ tier. Milotic, though, part of me wants to put Milo in the B+ tier. But I think it's... honestly, it's worthy of the B+ tier just because of Incineroar, I think. We'll talk about Milotic because it's a bit better. Obviously, this is it's a competitive Pokemon, which obviously makes it very, very nice into things like Incineroar. It also gets Coil as well, which really helps out with its worst, stats being its defensive stat here. As you can see, very solid HP, very, very good special defense, pretty subpar defense stats. So if you can get this up to +1, obviously it's pretty damn good. One of the biggest issues, though, was this mon I thought it lost access to Muddy Water. If this thing actually got Muddy Water back in Regulation F, oh my god, am I crazy? I thought it lost Muddy Water. I might have to check that, because if it actually got Muddy Water in DLC 2, that's actually kind of really insane, because Coil raises your accuracy. I thought it didn't get Muddy Water. Maybe I'm going crazy here. But yeah, anyway, you go for something like, Coil, Muddy Water, Recover, and then something like Icy Wind as well. This one, it's pretty good. I'm not going to lie. You know, with something like leftovers and whatnot, it can do a lot of work. But yeah, I really like Milotic. Oh, what happened there? But yeah, B plus tier. This one's solid, right? Really, really good into Incin as well. Big Bad Dusclops here. I'm going to put this on the same tier. Do I want to put it as good as P2? I think it's a little below P2. I'm going to put it B+. I do think it pairs a bit better with certain ones that P2 maybe doesn't. But essentially, it's the exact same as Porygon 2, right? It's a really bulky Violet Trick Room setter. It has access to things like Brick Break to enable, you know, like self-proccing weakness policy. It's also very annoying. It gets Haze, it gets Will-O-Wisp, it gets Pain Split as well. So yeah, Dusclops, a very, very annoying mon. I'm going to put it there in the B+ tier. Straight to the B+ tier as well here is another Intimidate mon I absolutely love, and that is Salamence. One of my favorite all-time Pokemon. It's an Intimidate mon with, you know, Tailwind. That can also pump out a lot of damage, both on the physical and special end. Because of that, solid B+ tier, man. Then we have the Lardies. Latias, I'm gonna honestly go out on a whim here and say A+. I feel like this is something that a lot of people are going to disagree with me on. Lardy was a mod that was really good early format, and people are starting to say, oh, Lardy's dropping off. Personally, I don't think this mod's dropping off. I think this mod is still incredibly good. If we have a look at Latios, right? Because, you know, I kind of want to explain myself here. Latias here. This is a very, very bulky mon, right? HP and defense are kind of whatever, but especially defense is very solid. It's a mon you kind of just want to pump a lot into here. But it's also very quick. It has a very good special defensive stat, and also has a fantastic matchup into a lot of the good Pokemon in the metagame. You know, talking about things like Urshifu Rapid Strike, it's very good into Rillaboom, Blendorus, Incarnate, stuff like that, right? Obviously, it doesn't necessarily love the Qianpao stuff, but it's very, very good against balanced teams. And as a, you know, a Tailwind Pokemon, right? It also has access to things like Recover as well, which can be very annoying. And it's a fantastic Rocky Helmet support mon, right? A lot of the top meta mons that really, you know, want to click physical attacks don't want to attack into a Dragon type. And having Psychic as a secondary typing, I do think is very nice, especially with fighting types being so damn good. Because of that, we're going to put it in an A+. Latios, though, although this is my preferred one, I have not tested it as much. And it feels wrong to put it in the A tier here. I'm going to say B+, simply because it's the more offensive version. It doesn't have the special defense stat that Latios does. Latias does, but Latios does hit quite a bit harder. And I definitely think it still has a niche. I think Soldu on it's also not too bad. As you know, actually, I didn't even touch on it too. Mist Ball is like another huge thing as well. Mist Ball is like really broken on Latios. And Latios does have Luster Purge, which is basically the same as this, but the offensive version lowers their special defense by one stage. And it can kind of really set up for some late game sweeps. It does become very, very hard to deal with. And because of that, we'll go B+. And I guess we're just going to keep adding to the B+ tier, because here we have Metagross. This is another Pokemon that really enjoys pairing up with Qianpao and D-Knight stuff. I do not think it's quite as good as Entei on these teams, as Entei does offer a bit more utility in terms of like burning stuff. But Metagross does fill a very similar role in the sense that it's a very good matchup into Fluttermane. Essentially, Fluttermane cannot eat a Adamant Max Bullet Punch when a Qianpao is on the board next to it. Essentially, Metagross needs some form of boost to be able to pick up a one-shot on Fluttermane. It can't do it without something like Ban, Terra, or Qianpao. But with one of those three, it can one-shot most Fluttermanes. And because of that, this one is definitely deserving of the B tier. Heavy Slam and Psychic Fangs as well were both very, very good, you know, additions to it for this format. I love you, Torterra. I'm going to put this one in the C tier. It is honestly bad outside of the fact that it got access to Shell Smash. This one wouldn't be here if I didn't love it. It's only there because it got Shell Smash, and I'm a huge fan of Torterra. Infernape, though, I'm going to put this one in the C+ tier. It's a fast fake-out mon that really relies on Focus Sash. It did get access to Upper Hand, which is definitely really interesting. I think it has a small niche, but again, this is a mon that kind of thrives in lower power formats. And in the current format, when you look at all these big bad guys up here in these top tiers, I'm sure you can understand why Infernape doesn't quite get the results it wants. But Empoleon, definitely the best of these three. I'm going to put it a tier below Milo. It essentially functions the exact same as Milotic, except I believe it gets Scald, right? Instead of... I'm pretty sure it gets Scald. It doesn't even get Scald. It gets Hydro Pump, though, right? It does get Hydro Pump, but you're probably not even... Probably feels weird clicking Hydro Pump, if I'm being honest. I think Water Pledge is actually its best move, funny enough, on the special end. But yeah, look, this mon, it functions very similar to Milotic in terms of being a competitive mon. It does obviously have the secondary typing of Steel, which means, like, yeah, it gets Flash Cannon, but it also gets a bunch of weaknesses with it, too. And yeah, just probably a bit worse than Milotic, if you ask me. Staraptor, though, this is a mon worthy of the B tier. This is actually a Pokemon I think that gets slept on quite a bit. Obviously, it's an Intimidate mon. It's also known for being a Choice Scarf Final Gambit mon. But I also just love Staraptor, and I do think that the Intimidate Choice Scarf set is very good. Essentially, if you look at how fast this mon can get, right, and then you go something like this, obviously, you know, it's Final Gambit, start doing a lot of damage, potentially. Final Gambit, pretty good move. But also, when you've got an attack stat, you know, this high, Even stuff like Brave Bird, Close Combat, Double Edge off this mon can also do a lot of damage. I think it also gets U-turn as well, right? So this mon can pump out a lot of damage, especially like I've seen people go stuff like Terra Flying with Choice Scarf and just go Brave Bird. And I'm not gonna lie, this mon absolutely, if you go something like this, does ridiculous damage with Terra Flying Brave Birds. Like it is insane. It's insane. And definitely a bit of a slept on mon right now, so I think it's good in the B tier. Pachirisu, this is here out of respect for what it did at Worlds. It's redirection, it's got Volt Absorb. And yeah, that's about it. This mon, you know, if you want Follow Me, it's got Follow Me. Terra Grass is not too bad on it. But yeah. Floatzel, honestly, probably shouldn't even be here. It's a Swift Swimmer, but gets completely outclassed by all the other Swift Swimmers. Gastro, this is a pretty decent mon. Probably going to slap it in the B+ tier. Gastrodon will always find a way, right? I think this mon paired up with Incin as well is also very, very good. It spams Yawn. It's got access to things like, obviously, Muddy Water, Earth Power, Recover, Ice Beam, Icy Wind, all that good stuff. It's a very annoying Pokemon and hard to deal with at times. Bronzong, this is a really cool Trick Room mon in my opinion. I'm surprised it doesn't get a bit more play, but it is probably a bit outclassed by Cresselia at the minute, which is kind of the biggest issue. It does have Iron Defense Body Press as well. It also gets access to things like Gyro Ball. Obviously a really good Trick Room setter as well. Two really nice abilities in Heat Proof and Levitate. So yeah, definitely a decent mon. Drifblim, this is another mon, probably kind of putting it here out of respect. I do think Drifblim in lower power formats with like terrain boosting items, like the terrain seeds is very nice because you get like the defensive boost plus you get the unburden boost. But outside of that, you know, it sets up Tailwind. It's got things like Strength Sap, Will-O-Wisp and whatnot. Very annoying mon. But yeah, probably does a little bit better in better formats. But I do think if you want to pair this with a terrain setter, it's honestly not too bad. Spiritomb, look, it's a decent Trick Room mon. It can't be taunted, can't be faked out. Obviously, the only way to really stop this thing from getting Trick Room up is finishing it off, like just KOing at turn 1. Or, of course, obviously, you know, Imprison. But Imprison isn't too, you know, popular right now. Garchomp, this pains me. I'm going to smack it in the B tier out of respect. Obviously, Garchomp is not the beast it once was. We have, you know, Landorus in the format now. It is also just, ground doesn't feel that good right now. Like, if you have a look up here, I don't really see that many ground types. We've got Ting Lu here, and that's really about it. Chomp's decently fast. It hits pretty damn hard. But obviously, with things like Rillaboom, Earthquake's not that good. Being a Dragon type isn't really good unless you're defensive. And like, sure, Rocky Helmet plus Rough Skin's also pretty decent. But yeah, look, I'm going to put it here. I think Garchomp is very good in the earlier formats. But obviously, as the power level starts going up, Garchomp does fall off just a little bit. Lucario would not be here if it wasn't for Justify Beat Up Boys. So that's where it goes. Toxicroak, your job is dry skin into rain teams plus a decent fake out. You're going into the C tier. Abomasnow, you are just a poor man's Alolan Ninetales. You do everything he does, but a lot worse. Weavile, this is just a fast fake out one. I think Ice is really good in the format, but really, this one either needs Focus Sash or it needs probably Clear Amulet because that's C+ tier. Magnezone, probably shouldn't even be here if I'm being honest. It doesn't really have a niche. It's a cool mon. It doesn't really do too much. Rhyperior, really slept on mon. I'm going to smack this one in the B tier. Let's talk about Rhyperior here, boys. So Rhyperior is a Pokemon that has a very, very good bulk, right? Physically, in the current metagame, this is absurd bulk, even with no investment. Its special defense is pretty subpar, but of course, there are things like Assault Vest. You can also pump a lot of, EVs into it to help it out. But finally, it has a ridiculously high attack stat, right? I've also seen people running stuff like Rock Blast with loaded dice on this mon as well, which I did think was really, really cool. But of course, this mon, it has things like Rock Slide, right? It has, that's Rock Blast. God damn it. It has access to Rock Slide. I think it gets high horsepower as well. Obviously Earthquake as well if you pair it with like something like Bronzong, for example. It's a very good weakness policy mon under Trick Room. And of course, one of the best things is it now gets access to Terra Grass, which says, hey, not only are we no longer, 4x weak to water and grass, now we resist both of them, we're also resist our rock weakness, but also Amoonguss can't underspeed us and spore us, which is fan-freaking-tastic. But yeah, I think Rhyperior is actually really slept on and probably a bit underexplored. Definitely a very, very good Pokemon. Mamo, I love Mamoswine. I'm going to smack this guy probably in the B tier, probably feels a bit high, probably top of C+ here. This is a mon that kind of relies on Focus Sash, but it's got an ability that obviously, I believe it's Oblivious, right? Oh my god, Mamoswine. I think it gets Oblivious. Yeah, Oblivious here, which means it's immune to Fake Out. You can also pair this with Snow, and it's pretty bulky physically. It hits pretty damn hard. I do think this is like either a Focus Sash or an AV mon though. But look, yeah, out of respect, I'm going to put it in the C+ tier. I think this mon has a niche, but it's not a great one. PZ, sorry. I love PZ. I'm going to put it at the bottom of B. I absolutely love this mon. It's an absolute nuke. There is a lot this mon can do. The issue is it's probably just not fast enough, and it's probably also outclassed by, P2. Adaptability obviously is fantastic, especially when you're firing off things like Hyper Beam. If this one got Hyper Voice though, I think that would be like a bit of a different story. I think Hyper Beam would be really sick on this one. But one cool thing though is adaptability does work with Terra. So say for example, if I go Terra Ghost, all of a sudden I get adaptability boosted Terra Ghosts if I click something like Shadow Ball, which I do think is pretty neat. But look, this mod is also a really good choice specs mod. Funny enough, this was one of the mods I was doing a lot of silly calcs with before the format dropped. When your special attack is this high, you slap a choice specs on it, you know, your helping hand, it'll put it next to a Chi-Yu. This one can do ridiculous amounts of damage, I'm not gonna lie. It gets kind of nutty if you look at that, 205. Pretty insane. But yeah, I'm a massive fan of PZ. But yeah, I think this is me being biased. It probably should be lower than B tier, but again, it's my list, I'll put it there. Now, Gallade is a very freaking interesting mon. Gallade right now is being run on a very particular core, and that is a Psy-Spam core, basically as one of its, you know, many Trick Room setters. So, when you look at this mod, right, you see very squishy, special bulk's pretty decent, you know, speed's kind of whatever, right? It's probably a bit too fast, but if you run something like this, for example, with a Brave Nature, you know, you can kind of get it pretty slow. 76 is relatively slow, right? But then you got to factor in the fact that this mon has access to sharpness, right? So boosted slicing moves by 1.5. It commonly pairs up with Indeedee, so you get Psychic Terrain. And then sharpness also boosts its, you know, one of its moves here being Psycho Cutter. So this is essentially boosted by 50%. Then of course Terrain boosted by 50%, and then Stab boosted it, and this move becomes insanely strong. It's also a high crit move. And this one also really likes to run Clear Amulet, so that way it doesn't get its stuff dropped. And then it also has another, a stab move here in Sacred Sword, right? So this one, as you can see here, has two incredibly powered moves that are both boosted by sharpness here. This one's boosted by Psychic Terrain. It's also a Trick Room setter, and it's a Wide Guard one, which means, hey, Fluttermane, you can't just lock into Dazzling Gleam and try to pick up, you know, a double KO on turn 2. You can't do it. I'm gonna sit there, I'm gonna, you know, spam up my Wide Guards, and you're gonna have a bad time. Same thing with, like, Make It Rain on Pokemon like Golden Go, right? If they want to try lock themselves into a Shadow Ball, you know, your Indeedee can just start redirecting the Shadow Balls as you get up the Wide Guard. Sorry, as you get up the Trick Room. If they try to Make It Rain, you can Wide Guard. Makes for a lot of really annoying plays, and because of that, Glade, very solid Trick Room on. Azelf, honestly, this one probably shouldn't be this high, but it goes boom. Azelf is very good, obviously, on very niche teams for, you know, basically going boom. We've seen it run with Tatsugiri with, what's it called? Toxic Orb plus Endure. We've also seen it run next to Pokemon like, why am I blanking? Hisuian Zoroark as well. Basically, you know, you kind of like, you know, just disguise it as like the Dondozo or the Tatsugiri, and then you go boom, you don't touch your Ghost type, and then your Ghost type fires off some pretty powerful attacks. Very cool mon, has a bit of a niche, but yeah, it's not that great, I guess. Heatran, another one of those really good fire types we were kind of touching on earlier. This mod is really underexplored right now, but I think is very good still. It does all the same stuff it did before. It has Flash Fire, you can Terra Grass to get away from its ground weaknesses, Terra Fairy to get away from its fighting weaknesses, and it's just really good. It has a lot of really good moves, Earth Power, Flash Cannon, you know, Magma Storm, Flamethrower, Heat Wave. Mon does a lot, honestly. Its bag's really deep, and it's a really solid mon. Cress is another probably a mon here. Obviously one of the premier Trick Room setters we have in the format. Very similar to Porygon 2, I guess, in a sense. Obviously it gets up Trick Room. It has access to things like Ice Beam, Psychic, Moonblast, Dazzling Gleam, all that kind of stuff. A very good option for Terra as well, considering it has Levitate. And yeah, also, you know, Lunar Blessing's a pretty damn good move. You pair this up with something like, you know, regular Ursaluna, and you just keep curing the burn so it doesn't take any chip, and you keep it healthy. And obviously too, you can, you know, side Earthquake next to a Crest. So yeah, pretty good Trick Room on, honestly. Why is... I was like, where the hell is Emboar? Emboar's in the F tier. That's why Emboar is left here. Same with regular Samurott. Superior, I'm going to smack this guy in the B tier. Jamie Boyd special, if you want to learn how to play this one, go check out Jamie Boyd on YouTube. Definitely the best Superior player in the world. This one's got Glare, it's got Contrary, it's got, what's it called, Leaf Storm. Also, the new Terra Stella is very nice on this mon as well, because if you Terra Blast a opposing Terra Pokemon, you actually get the buff on your Terra, which is, you know, very cool, because obviously Terra Blast against a Terra Mon obviously lowers your, you know, your offensive stats. Not on Superior, because it's Contrary at boost up, so that's pretty poggers. Yeah, definitely a decent mon here. Samurott, you're going to go right here into the C tier. Ceaseless Edge sets up the spikes. That is all. Yeah, that's basically that mon. I guess Sharpness is pretty good too. Excadrill, my guy, I'm going to stick him right here next to his best buddy Tita. Steel typing is obviously very good into Fluttermane. Ground typing is very good. And of course, you know, Excadrill's just, it does things, right? This is the premier Sand Rush Pokemon we've probably ever had. Attack stat is absurdly high. Its bulk is pretty average, but its HP makes up for it a bit. Obviously, it gets access to things like Iron Head. It gets Rock Slide, right? It gets high horsepower. You can even pair it, of course, with things like Earthquake and run like a Terra Flying T-Tar as well if you really wanted. I do think this is a very good clear amulet Pokemon, though. I think Swords Dance as well, something I didn't really touch on there, but it's very, very good. I think SD plus like dual stab and protect is very, very nice on it. And yeah, just in general, it's a good mon. If you have a look at the speed stat here, it kind of hits what it needs, right? Basically, the minimum you ever want your boosting one to hit is probably around that 139, I think it is, to outspeed Regieleki, who hits 277. An extra drill hits 280 in sand, which is very, very PogChamp because of that. Solid B+. Conkeldurr, look, I'm putting Conk here out of respect. This is one of the greatest, Pokemon ever in VGC history. I believe it's a multiple-time world champion. It's a very good Gutsmon. Honestly, probably a bit outclassed these days, so I'm just going to leave it here in the C tier. Oh, C+, I should say, sorry. Whimsicott, one of my all-time favorite VGC mons. As much as I love Whims, I think this is a mon that will probably definitely rise as the formats develop. I'm going to stick it here in the A tier, though. I'm going to put it right here next to Chi-Yu, because this is my core boys. Chi-Yu plus Whimsicott. Whimsicott has an incredibly deep bag. As in terms of being a supportive mon, its bag is a bit deeper than Tornadus's. Really, the big difference is Tornadus is a lot more offensive for a support mon than Whims. Their bulk is also probably not really close. I think Tornadus is also bulkier. The main thing, though, is this speed stat here, right? This is a mon, obviously, it has access to things like Tailwind, it has Fake Tears, right? It's got Helping Hand, Encore, Taunt, like... Honestly, I shouldn't have even typed them in. I should have just typed in status here, and you guys can see what it's got, right? Cotton Guard's also very nice, right? We've already put those three. It gets Light Screen, Memento, Sub, Switcheroo, Taunt. It gets Charm as well, which is really good, obviously. Worry Seed as well if your team's really weak to a Moongus. Also, offensively, it gets things like Moonblast, Dazzling Gleam, Energy Ball. Also, it's a Sunny Daemon as well. It gets Misty Terrain. Honestly, Whimsicott's bag is just so damn deep. It's in the A tier for right now because I do think it really struggles into these Chien-Pao D-Knight teams. But I do think as the metagame develops and maybe the priority spam teams drop off a bit, I'll definitely think we could see Whimsicott rise up a lot more. Then we have Hisuian Lilligant. I'm going to spec this in the B tier here right next to Torkoal. This mon's job is essentially to pair up with Torkoal and Torkoal only and click after you, right? You have a look at Lilligant. This mod says, hey, I'm really damn fast. I actually hit pretty decently hard. Give me a Focus Sash and Adamant Nature. It's like, okay, nothing outspeeds me. I'm going to go for After You Eruptions. Anything that does outspeed me, hey, guess what? I got Close Combat. I got Solar Blade. And my job is essentially to die. Yeah, that's it. Go in there. Can also click Sleep Powder too, I guess, which is something to keep in mind. But yeah, this mon, it comes out, it supports Torkoal, and also deals quite a bit of damage. Because of that, it's in the B+ tier with his good friend Torkoal. Crook, I love Crook. This probably should have just been in the F tier. It's an Intimidate mon. There's a lot better Intimidate mons, unfortunately. Goth obviously is Goth. It does the same stuff it's always done. It has Fake Out, it has Shadow Tag. It's pretty damn broken. It's really good. Shadow Tag, by the way, for those who don't know, basically prevents Pokemon from switching out unless they're a Ghost type or have an ability that says otherwise. It clicks Fake Out. It clicks things like Trick Room, right? It also has like Heal Pulse. Has access to Psychic as well. Right, there's a lot this mon can do, right? Basically, you pair this mon up with a Perish Song mon or a Perish Trap mode. You kind of pick up an early KO, get your Goth in, Perish some mons down, and eventually win the game. I do believe it also gets access to Helping Hand as well, which is pretty damn nice. Then we have Reuniclus. I love this mon. I'm going to put it in the C+ tier just because it's a personal favorite of mine. This is it's a Trick Room mon that also gets Expanding Force. Reuniclus, it's not bad. Like, again, for me, it's a personal favorite. That's why it's here. It's very slow. Bulk is pretty decent and has very good special attack. It gets Expanding Force, but that's all it really has going for it. So it's a C+ mon. Amoonguss, I'm putting this straight in the A+ tier. This is a mon that we have not seen that much of currently in the format, but Amoonguss is Amoonguss. I guarantee you guys, it's just new toy syndrome. Obviously, people right now are playing, these Power Knight teams, and I think Ogre Pawn Water's a lot better on them. But as the metagame kind of slows down, Amoonguss does what Amoonguss does best. It clicks Spore, it clicks Rage Powder, and it becomes incredibly annoying. It's a very bulky mod. It has Regenerator. It's just good. It does what it does. Then we have Chandelure. Chandelure's another B+ mon. This is a mon with a very high special attack stat. Has Trick Room. It's a very good Focus Sash mon. It has Flash Fire. A lot of good immunities. It can work in both Trick Room and Tailwind. But really, it's just outclassed. It's too fast, really, for Trick Room to be some amazing Trick Room mon. It's also a bit too slow to be a really good Tailwind mon. Now, Mienshao, this is a mon I'm actually going to put a bit higher. I'm going to smack this one in the B tier. Mienshao, what it kind of does really good is matches up really nicely into Incineroar. For those who don't know, Inner Focus, obviously, it makes you immune to Flinching and Intimidate. And this is a pretty decently fast mon with a really good attack stat that can just go, hey, I got Close Combat. So this mon, what it likes to do, it goes for something like Focus Sash normally, right? You go Focus Sash, you got Inner Focus, you got Close Combat, you got Fake Out. I believe it also gets U-Turn as well. It also gets Upper Hand, gets Wide Guard as well, I think as well. It's a really, really cool support mon. Its bulk is very, very bad, but obviously it's not a mon you can really afford to ignore. Because if you just let this thing, you know, outspeed your instant and just go bang, bang close combat, it's done, right? You just one-shot it. It's pretty good. Because of that, solid B tier mon, I think. Mandibuzz, gonna smack it in the C+. It's very bulky. It has Tailwind. It has Snarl. That's really about it. Hydreigon, I'm putting this one here out of respect as well. I love Hydreigon. It's definitely fallen off as the formats have gone on. I think it probably is a little bit underexplored as its bulk is pretty decent. But obviously Fluttermane really kind of just makes this mon feel almost unplayable, really. Then we have Volcarona. This honestly is a mon. I'm putting this one straight into the A tier. I think setup is the best it's been for all of Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, and Quiverance is really goddamn good. If you could pair this up with, you know, some Intimidate plus some other redirection, even some side healing is always really, really good. And of course, you pair this thing up, you know, with a good defensive Terra typing, and all of a sudden, the mons, you know, like Urshifu, for example, that normally threaten it, all of a sudden they burn themselves, you heal it all back with Giga Drain, and yeah, you're having a pretty damn good time. Volk is very, very good. Cobalion, I'm going to put this one in the C+ tier, because I know my guy Ice, the Source God, is constantly putting it in his builder. Really though, this one's only really good for, like, you know, using Justify. But the other thing is, if you're gonna do that, just use Terrakion. I'm gonna put Terrak in the B tier. Terrak plus Whimsicott, you know, I'll put it over here because we didn't really talk about it. Terrakion, right? You have a look at this guy, Justified, right? If you get hit by a Dark Move, you get +1 attack. You pair that up with Whimsicott over here, who gets beat up. All of a sudden, you just gave your Terrakion, you know, potentially Tailwind support. Also has a very good attack stat. And yeah, you just give it +4 attack, and then all of a sudden it Rock Slides you. That's Rock Blast. Why, dude? I mean, I get why they do it. Come on, still Rock Frick, man. Rock Slide. God damn. Also gets Upper Hand as well, which is really good. Because obviously this is a mon that kind of, you know, doesn't really want to go up against priority. One of the easiest ways to clean up something like Terrakion is Grassy Glide coming out of a Rillaboom. And because of that, you know, you say, hey, I'm +4, and now I'm going to Upper Hand the shit out of you. And it's not going to be fun, because that is not an attack Rillaboom really wants to eat. But yeah, definitely the best Justified mon in the format, I think. And a very solid B tier mon. God damn, how many more do we have to go? Okay, I've also got the Paradox. Okay, so we're actually getting there. We're almost done. We're almost done. I feel like I've been here for almost 2 hours, though. So anyway, let's keep trying to speed it up. We'll pump it out, and we'll go from here. Tornadus, this goes straight into the A+ tier. Tornadus, in my opinion, is without a doubt the premier Tailwind setter in the format, right? It's very, very, you know, very fast, a bit bulkier than Whimsicott is as well. It also has a pretty damn broken stab move here in Bleak Wind Storm. As you guys can see, its bulk, you know, relatively similar to Whimsicott. Obviously, the offensive stats are far superior. And it gets Bleak Wind Storm. This is a mon that you pair up with, you know, Urshifu, Rapid Strike, put it in the rain, set up Tailwind, and this mon is just going to start absolutely just nuking stuff, right? Very, very good. Definitely worthy of the A+ tier, in my opinion. Thunderous, though, I just realized the Incarnate forms aren't here. I should probably talk about them individually. Well, Taunty probably wouldn't be on this list. It's bad. I'm going to put Thundy in the B tier, and I think its other form would also go right here with it. I think it's a very good mon, but there are too many good dark types in the current format that make it good, to make it really usable. The one thing I would say is this mon currently is incredible on those Power Knight teams with the Raging Bolt, because basically the Power Knight teams right now are kind of losing to these Iron Bolt or Scythe Spam stuff. And this is a mon that can set priority electric terrain, which I do think is very good. It also gets access as well, I think, to it also gets access to Rain Dance, if I'm not mistaken, right? Yeah, so you can go something like this and then basically never worry that much about, you know, weather or terrain. Because this is a mon where it's like, hey, if you're going to run your own rain team, I'm going to Wild Bolt Storm the shit out of you. And if you're going to run like Sun, I can change the weather. If you're going to run Side Spam, I can change the terrain. Same obviously with things like Rillaboom, right? This one can outspeed Rillaboom and get off the electric terrain. So it definitely does have a niche. And the Therian version of this mon, it's just very offensive. Assault Vest, Volt Absorb, hits very hard. I'm just going to smack that in the B tier too. Landorus Incarnate, I'm going to smack it in the A tier alongside Lando T. Landorus Incarnate, this is just a Life Orb, Sludge Bomb, and Earth Power bot. Basically, you pair it up with Tornadus as well, and you can click, you know, some Sandsear Storms in the rain. Very cool. But Landorus Therian form in particular, Choice Scarf, I think, is the way to go right now. It's an Intimidate mon that has U-Turn, obviously Stomping Tantrum, Rock Slide, all that good stuff. Terra Flying Terra Blast as well. Really good. Both Landorus forms are very solid. But yeah, I would have Landorus Therian here as well, with Landorus Incarnate in the A tier. Alright, and then we have Greninja. I'm going to put Gren in the C+ tier. This is a interesting one that really works well with Sandy Gast, and that's about it. Gren, it's really cool. I feel like it kind of got nerfed a little too hard. I think if it had Battle Bond, it honestly could have been pretty cool in VGC. but it doesn't, so I'm just going to leave it there in the C tier. It really doesn't do that much, sadly. Talonflame, this mon, ahead of its time. It was so damn good they nerfed Gale Wings, and now the mon's just average. Lower powered formats, obviously Talonflame is fantastic. You know, having a priority Brave Bird turn 1 if you want it is great. Having priority Tailwind's great. Obviously, you know, access to things like Will-O-Wisp is also really, really damn good. Comfort Cloak and Terror also help this mon out a lot. Because of that, just solid B tier. Definitely one of the better Tailwind setters we have, but unfortunately not quite as good as things like Tornadus or Whimsicott. Pavilion, sorry, I'm going to put you in the C+ tier. It's just Redirection Front Guard. It really is just a poor man's Clefairy. That's kind of my best way to describe it, right? Bit more offensive. Pollen Puff obviously is better than, obviously, Heal Pulse because you can go offensive with it. But C+ tier is all I'm really willing to give this mon. I just realized too, am I missing... I haven't done Incin. Is Incin here? Oh, wait, here, dude, here's these three, man. Look at me. Oh, dude, this is scuffed. I feel like I'm missing some mons from Generation 7. I could be wrong. I'll double check that at the end anyway. These guys already touched on them. So you're A tier. You're not worth ranking, and then you can just go here in the B tier. I've already said those before. Yeah, we'll kind of come back to it because there's also some double ups here as well. So we'll sort that out at the end, I think. Sylveon though, Sylveon, I'm gonna smack this probably in the B+ tier. This is arguably the second best fairy type in the format, which isn't really saying a lot because there kind of is just like one main one. I guess like technically Clef might be the second best fairy in the format, but it doesn't really use it. I think Sylveon like as a fairy is also better than Ninetales as well. I should probably chuck that out there. But look, it gets Stab, Hyper Voice, gets what is it called? Is it Pixelate? I think it's Pixelate. So yeah, it's honestly pretty decent. You know, kind of wants to click its Hyper Voices and just deal a lot of damage. Then we have Holucha. Holucha is an absolute beast in terrain. That's about it. If you can get this thing in on terrain, it can click Swords Dance, pair it up with like a DD. It can do a lot of damage, and honestly is pretty damn slept on. Hisuian Gudra. This is just a poor man's Registeel. Which, by the way, I feel like, dude, how many mons are missing from this list? Am I missing Registeel as well? Dude, man, that's why you don't use other people's lists, man. There's so much missing. No. The Regis aren't here. God. Oh, that's a pain in the ass. I'm so far into the list, and I've just realized how many mons are missing. It's not down here, is it? Sorry, boys. I'm just going to double check here. I didn't throw the Regis down here, did I? No, I didn't. God damn it, dude. There's so many mons missing. The Regis are missing. Incineroar's missing. God damn, I hope I'm not missing anything too crazy. I'll definitely double check it at the end, because I feel like I'm missing too much here, and I definitely don't want to miss any of the really viable mons. Keychain, though, look, you're C+, you get screens, Prankstamon, that's about it. Hisuian Decky Dewey, decent Trick Room on, that's about it. Bulk's there, speed's low, signature moves okay. Oh wait, here they are here. How the hell did I miss Incin? Okay, I'm just missing the Regis. God damn, people are probably like, Scott, it's right there. You're an idiot. I'll add Registeel later. Actually, you know what? I'm going to talk about Registeel. We'll do Registeel later. I'll add it in. I'll add it in. We'll come back to it later. Incin, this mon, really good. A+ tier. I'm not willing to put it any higher than A+. This mon damn fell off. I think there are too many mons right now that are really good into it. Not to mention the fire typing in general is just really good. If you look in this tier, obviously we already have Entei, and you look right below, we've got things like Chiyu, Bulk, Hisuian Arcanine, Gouging Fire, you know, Heatran, even stuff like Torkoal, Magma. The fire typing right now is very contested. Obviously Clear Amulet and Covered Cloak as well have come into the game and said, hey, Incin, we don't really give a shit about you. The Ogre-Pawns have also come in. Ogre-Pawn Grass is like, hey, I can just one-shot you before you move, right? I can run something like Covered Cloak, and you're not going to be able to really do anything for the game. There's obviously, you know, things like Clear Amulet, which says, hey, you can't parting shit off me anymore. Things like Entei, who are like, hey, I dare you to come out. I'm just going to start aiming down your ally while you do 0 damage. But look, Incin, still really good. Really strong against Flare Blitz, against Knockoff, Fake Out, Parting Shot, U-Turn. You know, a lot of this one does a lot, right? Throat Chop as well. Very, very solid one. Still obviously worthy of the A tier. But a lot of people probably expect me to put it up here in S+. I'm going to say it's A tier. I don't think it's quite as good as Chen Pao is right this minute. But Primarina, I'm actually going to go out on a limb here, boys. I'm going to put this in the A tier. I know, crazy, absurd. You were saying, Scott, you said Sylveon was the second best fairy in the format. I lied. I think Primarina, unironically, is the second best fairy in the format. The main reason is this mon's really good into the Urshifus. Not to mention, it just pumps out damage. It has Gleam, it has Moonblast, it has a Stab Hyper Voice as well. For those who don't know its ability, you know, let's pull it up. I feel like I haven't looked at, you know, mons in a second. Primarina, it gets Liquid Voice. I do think sound-based moves become water, sorry, not water-based moves, my bad. I really wish this got the 1.2 times boost that things like Pixelate got. Aqua Jet, it's there. It's actually also not too bad. I do think you can self-proc a lot of things with Aqua Jet off this mon, especially if you're running something like, for example, this. I do think Aqua Jet can be pretty decent, but really it's Hyper Voice, right? Hyper Voice becoming stab, spread move is very, very nice. You got Moonblast, right? You get things like Dazzling Gleam. It also gets, you know, some really nice support moves as well, right? It gets Life Do. It also gets access to, why am I blanking here? Calm Mind as well, which I think is very solid. Something to keep in mind here as well is I believe Life Do procs Water Absorb on Ogerpawn Water and also then gives it the Life Do, which means you heal it for like 50%, which is pretty damn poggers. But yeah, this mon is a mon I've had in the builder quite a bit, and I do think is actually super, super slept on right now. Lycanroc, C tier, you kind of just get outclassed by Excadrill in every way. But look, it's there. It can go Sash, Rock Slide, Endeavor, you know, Endure, all that kind of stuff. It's annoying. We'll leave it there. Mudsdale, I'm going to smack you straight in the C tier because I don't think I have enough mons in the C tier here. This is basically a Stamina mon. Stamina, good ability, bad mon. Best way I can kind of describe this thing. Araquanid, good old Spider, going straight in the B tier. This mon's ability is just actually kind of insane. If you have a look at Water Bubble here, basically doubles the power of water type moves. You're like, oh yeah, this special attack stat, sorry, this physical attack stat's pretty damn ass. Even if you go like Adamant Max, it's really freaking low. But if you go like Mystic Water, Terra Water, like Liquidation, all of a sudden this mod, like I've seen someone do the math on this. Like if you get this in Rain, Liquidation becomes like 850 base power or something absurd like that, I think. Maybe it was like 750. I saw the math somewhere on Twitter. Absolutely bonkers. This mon's also incredibly slow. That's why you go Brave, not Adamant, Scott. And yeah, it's a really solid Trick Room mon. It also gets access to things like Wide Guard. Honestly, really slept on. I think Moxie also took it to the Portland Regional, so shout out to the Moxie Boosted. Really good guy. But yeah, honestly, pretty damn pog mon if you ask me. Serena, I'm going to put you right here in the B tier. This mon is priority block. It's going to go there with a bunch of other ones. Bruxish, you're also going there. These mons, they block priority. That's it. They're really good at it. They're probably just a little outclassed by Giraffe. Is Giraffe here, by the way? I feel like I haven't done the Giraffe yet, have I? Dude, don't tell me Giraffe's missing too. We'll go through the list and then we'll eventually come back to that. Because if Giraffe's missing from this list, I'm kind of tilted at this list. I thought it had everything. Anyway, Comfey. I like Comfey. I think this is a cool mon. I'm going to smack it in the C+ tier here. Its ability to, you know, obviously have priority healing moves is cool. You can also use things like Draining Kiss and Giga Drain to proc weakness policies as well, which is pretty cool. And yeah, you're just going to go on the C+ tier. Ogre Oranguru, you're also C+. This is another pretty damn good Trick Room mon. It has Inner Focus. It can hold the power of the Mental Herb as well. And also Instruct. Actually, you know what? It has Instruct. You're going in the B tier. You're going in the B tier. This mon's pretty good. Instruct plus really strong Trick Room mon. Pretty pog chap. I'm not going to lie. Really damn good with the Ursalunas in particular. Mimi, I love Mimi, has one of the best typings in the game. Its ability is also really, really good. Unfortunately for Mimikyu, its biggest issue is it's too damn slow, and there are a lot of Pokemon in the format that are really good into it. Urshifu is a Pokemon that can threaten it quite heavily, and also Iron Crown's Tachyon Cutter is also pretty damn good. It's a weird mon with a pretty good speed tier, but its Trick Room is definitely very reliable. Can't be faked out. You can put a Mental Herb on it. It also has things like Swords Dance. It also has things like Will-O-Wisp. Honestly, it's pretty damn good. But this guy here, we're going to put it right here with Greninja, because as I said when I was talking about Greninja, they kind of pair together. Basically, you Water Shuriken, the Water Compact or whatever, and it does things. That's about it. C tier, that's where you're staying. Komodo, Kaumu, however you want to pronounce it, C+. One of the better Iron Defense Body Press ones we have in the game. Also a pretty solid typing. Honestly, this one's biggest issue is Flutter Mane. But look, I definitely think it has a niche. You can definitely build around it if you wanted. Rillaboomba, this guy's going straight in the A+ tier. Fake Out, Grassy Terrain are good. Woodhammer in terrain is absurdly strong. It does a lot of damage. Also pairs really well with Shared Power. Has things like U-Turn, High Horsepower. Very, very good Pokemon. Corviknight, I'm going to smack you in the B tier. I think Corv is a little bit... Nah, that's a bit disrespectful to the B tier. Corv's going in C+. Very bulky. It has Iron Defense, has bulk up as well. It can be, you know, used as a body press mon, can be used as a, you know, a bulky tailwind mon. It has Roost, Iron Head, a lot of cool stuff going for it. We're going to smack it here in the C+ tier. Hatterene, you're going straight here in the B+ tier. Hatterene is really good. It just got Expanding Force back. It's the second slowest Trick Room mon. It also has access to things like Dazzling Gleam. But yeah, E-Force go bro. That's basically Hatterene for you boys. Grimmsnarl, this guy's also going in the B+ tier. Definitely the best screen setter we have right now. I do think screens is probably a little bit underexplored because I do think everyone's kind of running like Super HO. Really the biggest issue with screens is a little Pokemon called Urshifu. But yeah, look, Grimmsnarl, it's not bad. It sets up screens. It has Parting Shot. It can play really well with things like Landorus, Therian Form. and Sinistra. But yeah, pretty decent mon. I do think screens are pretty good. Alcremie. Gonna put Alcremie in the B tier. This mod is only here because of Decorate. For those who don't know what Decorate does, actually that's also a lie. Alcremie also has the ability basically to stop its allies from being from slept, which is also pretty damn cool. But yeah, it basically just clicks Decorate. It gives its ally +2 to both offensive stats. And yeah, that's Alcremie for you boys. Smeagol probably actually does that job better because Smeagol can copy Decorate too. Stonejourner, you're going right in the C tier. You are only here because of your ability. For those who don't know, Stonejourner has an ability called Power Spot. It gives its ally basically a free life orb. Pretty damn PogChamp. Indeedee Female. I did leave Indeedee Male off this list, but Indeedee Female is going right in the A tier. This is a Redirection mon. It's a Psychic Surge mon. It's a Trick Room mon. That's it. This mon, it has its niche and it does it really freaking well. Dragapult, my guy, one of the goats. Gonna smack in the B+. This is a mon that also really likes playing with Chen Pao. The bandit sets are pretty cool. Technically speaking, it's probably the fastest Pokemon in the format, unless you count Regieleki. But Regieleki is not that good. But yeah, Dragapult just is a solid guy. Honestly, probably even worthy of the A tier. Actually, I'm looking at this tier. I'm going to put him in the A tier because I'm biased. I love Dragapult. It's very good. It gets U-turn. Choice Banded, Terra Ghost, Terra Blast is also very, very funny. Reginald Alecki, the guy we just spoke about, is going straight into the B tier, I think. The fastest Pokemon in the game, base 200. This one was so good in Generation 8, they had to nerf its ability, and they left Drago's ability the same as it was. His ability is now 1.3, where Drago's is 1.5. But yeah, super fast Electro Web. Basically, this one's biggest issue is it folds to priority moves. Basically, if D-Knight has a choice band, it just dies, which is, yeah, not fun. Regidrago, though, funny enough, outclasses it. I'm actually gonna... I'm gonna put Regidrago in the B+ tier. I think this one's really good. Its biggest issue, obviously, is the Fairy types. But look, it gets Dragon Energy, a ridiculous, stab move. It gets Strike of Meteor. It also gets Flash Cannon, Earth Power. Terra also really helps this mon. Really solid, and on the right team can do a lot of damage. God, right, we're almost at the freaking end here, boys. Glastrier, I'm putting you right in the C+ tier. This is a really good mon under Trick Room, but it doesn't have any accurate moves. I think if it got Icicle Spear, it would be even better. Spectre, I'm putting this in the B+ tier. I think this is one of the most underrated, underexplored mons in the format. I think it is the second best ghost type in the format. Let me see. No, that's a lie. It's Golden Go. Are there anything better here? Probably. Yeah, look, it's a top 5 ghost type in the format, maybe. I might be talking out my ass here. Grimming Neigh is broken. Obviously, it hits a lot harder naturally than Fluttermane does. Just doesn't have that beautiful fairy typing, and it is a bit slower, unfortunately. But I do think Nasty Plot sets on Spectre are very good and definitely worth exploring. Both Ursalunas, I'm going to rank them together here. They're both in the A tier. These mons hit insanely hard. They are probably the 2 premier Trick Room abusers right now. Blood Moon off this guy is very good. Stab Facade off this guy with Burn is very good. They're both just insanely powerful under Trick Room, right? They're just not really much else you can say, right? Ground and Normal pair incredibly well together. So yeah, both worthy of the A tier here. Earthworm, I'm going to say this guy is B+ tier. Very, very underrated right now. Definitely a great Shed Tail mon, but the Iron Defense Body Press stuff makes it incredibly tough to deal with in the current format. Sneasler, this is very similar to where I put Hawlucha. I'm going to put it in the B tier because I do think it's better than Hawlucha. Obviously, it has access to Fake Out. It's very powerful, can dance up as well. Diaclaw is also a very, very broken move. This is honestly a mod I think is just underexplored. I think Sneasler is actually insanely good. People just, for some reason, don't use it, right? I want to check something, actually. Sneasler. Do you get Double Kick? Doesn't get Double Kick, damn. I wish Double Kick was in the game. It'd make Mon so much better against Chen Pao. But look, really good speed. It's a very, very good Unburdened Mon. Like, with something like Grassy Seed, for example, buffing up its defensive stat, you can kind of say, like, hey, I don't actually need you to be that fast. Like, this at +2 is outspeeding anything it needs. This with, like, max attack is hitting really damn hard. So, yeah, you can definitely drop this down, right? Run something like, 160, whatever. Invest a bit into bulk. Have Grassy Tree buffing this. You got your Unburden. Dude, Diaclaw's a broken move. Read that shit. It's got Close Combat too. A stupidly good stab move. Access to Fake Out. Access to Swords Dance. That's Swift Scott. Sword Dance. Honestly, this bomb, I think it's very underrated. I actually can't believe it doesn't get to see more play. Enamorous, though, I'm going to put you straight in the same tier as Superior. I'm going to put you right here. It is just slightly worse Superior. Naturally a bit slower. Hits a lot harder naturally. But look, it's a contrary mon without really any amazing way to self-boost. It gets superpower, and off the top of my head, that's about it. I think if this one maybe got like Floor Cannon, Floral Cannon, whatever Maguna's signature move is, it would be absolutely busted. But for now, solid B tier, right? It's a good mon. Could arguably, like, If Fluttermane didn't exist, it could honestly fill that role of Fluttermane's as like the fast special attacker. But Fluttermane exists, so it's going to sit right there. Do I have the other version of that though? I don't have the other version of it. So I'm going to say the other version of this is probably a tier higher, probably in the B+ tier. I think the fact that it has Overcoat, plus it's like just insanely bulky for a Trick Room Mon is really, really good. And it's honestly probably underexplored. I think the biggest issue these two in particular find is Springtide Storm isn't like increased accuracy in the rain like the other three. And because of that, I can't really put it any higher than probably B and B+. Meowscarada, dude, are we only just... Oh no, of course, yeah, we're getting to the start here. Meowscarada, C+ tier. I'm going to put it here with Skeledirge. These two were just staples in, you know, the first series of the format. Meowscarada is very fast, you know, hits decently hard with Flower Trick. That's really all it has. Protein is kind of cool for stuff like U-Turn and Sucker Punch, but that's really about it. Skeledirge, though, also super bulky. You know, Torch Song is also a very good move. Unaware is also a fantastic ability. It also has a natural resistance as well to E-Speed as well, which is pretty damn cool. And it can also, you know, threaten things like Burn, so Chien-Pao can't just, like, sit there and go straight up for, like, a, you know, it can't just go up for, like, a Sucker Punch, for example. You can start throwing out Will-O-Wisps and being super annoying. Honestly, I'm one that could probably, you know, do with a little bit more experimenting. And holy crap, boys, we are almost at the end. My goodness. This has been a hot minute. Maushold. God, my voice is going. Maushold, I'm putting you in the B+ tier. This is a redirection Mon with Friend Guard that also has access to a lot of damage in Technician plus Population Mon with a wide lens. B+ tier, this Mon can do a lot. Also very, very good at pairing up with things like Annihilate, for example. This guy right here will rank them together. Actually, Annihilate, yeah, Annihilate's probably a B+ one as well. Because you could beat up your Annihilate. Annihilate 2, this is a very, very good Mon. It was probably designed to be the counter to Incineroar. It's very unfortunate that, again, we have so much power that has kind of, like, made this guy bad. Like, honestly, if the Urshifus didn't exist, Annihilate could be a lot better than it actually is, in my opinion. But look, this guy, he's still, you know, he can't be faked out by Incin. You don't want to parting shot off it. You don't want to intimidate it. You don't want to be Drain Punched. Rage Fist is really good still. Like, Rage Fist is one of the most broken moves in the game. But yeah, Annihilate, you know, you're a solid B+ tier Mon. I feel like we've already done... No, you're Garganackle. You're not... I thought I already did that. We did this guy. Garganackle, putting you in the C+ tier. It's a bulky Mon. It was really, really well designed in terms of, like, being competitively viable. But Urshifu exists, therefore bad. Salt Q is really good. Also is the ability to heal up. But yeah, I'm going to put him in the C+ tier. Oh, these two. I'm going to stick this guy right next to Hatterene. This is the other really good expanding Force Mon. It also got access to Meteor Beam as well, which I do think is pretty damn pog for it. And yeah, it gets Wide Guard, it gets Trick Room, Expanding Force, Heat Wave, Armor Cannon. Honestly, pretty damn good, yeah. Ceruledge, my favorite of the two. You're going in the C+ tier. This Mon's cool. It kind of really needs Clear Amulet to function, but it gets Swords Dance, right? It gets Bitter Blade, which is really good for healing up. And Shadow Sneak is always a pretty damn good move. Bramble Ghast, I'm going to put you in the B tier. Focus Sash is pretty good on it. It also gets access to what's it called? Wind Rider, pretty similar to what Shiftry had. It's really, really good into some of those Tornadus teams. And also being a Grass and a Ghost type, you're also really good into Urshifu Rapid Strike, which makes you even better against those rain teams. And yeah, Wind Rider's pretty good. Worthy of the B tier. Palafin, my guy, gonna put him in the B+ tier. Some people are probably gonna say, hey, it's probably a bit too high for Palafin. Palafin fell off. Palafin, I still think is very good. It's just biggest issue is Urshifu is really good. And the metagame is incredibly hyper offensive right now. So it feels really weird trying to use a turn to set this Mon up. But I think in a metagame where it kind of slows down a bit, this Mon in particular paired with these two guys here could be very good. Incin and Rillaboom support Palafin really, really well. Alright, boys, we're getting there. I feel like my voice is going, but we're almost at the Paradox Mons. Basculegion is the best Swift Swimmer in the format, B tier. Last Respects is really, really damn good. It also has just a really high offensive, you know, I shouldn't say a high offensive stat at base like 110 or whatever it is. But Wave Crash and Last Respect make up for its attack stat not being super duper insane. Glamora, slept on. This one's A tier right now. I think Power Herb plus Meteor Beam is really, really freaking good. There are a lot of ones this guy can kind of just one-shot. And getting +1/2 is really good. It also pairs up incredibly well with Dondozo, who, by the way, bro, we're going to put you here. Oh, there's the draft. I couldn't see it before. Dondozo, Tatsugiri, you're getting ranked together here with Glamora. This combo is always going to be freaking good. These three Mons in particular together are always good. Tatsugiri and Dondozo together are always really good. Commander giving Dozo +2 to every single stat is always going to be really damn good. You know, obviously paired with Glamora, you can use, you know, Toxic Debris plus Mortal Spin to really, you know basically poison your opponents, and then use Dondozo to kind of sit there and, leftovers protect, store them out. Dondozo also has access to things like Wave Crash and, Earthquake as well, which is also really freaking good. I feel like I don't really need to explain too much. These two do what they do, right? Tatsugiri gets in his mouth, and then Dondozo go burr. Flamigo, you're gonna go in the C+ tier. This mon's only job is to steal this, the shine from its allies. Obviously, Muck and Dondozo are the two most known combos with it, really. But yeah, Co-Star plus like wide guard support, pretty decent, I guess. Now, Farigiraf, kind of touched on this guy earlier when we spoke about these two. It's definitely the best of the three, and I'm actually gonna spank it here in the A tier. It's a Trick Room mod. It also does quite a bit of damage. It's also quite bulky. And yeah, it's a really, really good counter to stuff like Chien Pao Unite. So yeah, it's worthy of the A tier. Gambit, this is another probably... I'm going to go A+ mod. I think Gambit's A+. It's very, very bulky, has a very good defensive typing. Swords Dance on this mod is insane. It is also a mod you do not want to intimidate as well. Swords Dance plus Terror Dark Sucker Punches go absolutely burr. This one, while, naturally doesn't have, the best matchup in the Fluttermane, if you ever get any boost, you can take out the Fluttermane. If a Lander is Therian and it gets, gives you +1, Sucker Punch will just remove it from the game. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff King Gambit can do. It's very bulky. It hits really freaking hard too. One of the best ones we have without a doubt. Then we have Great Tusk. I'm putting it in C tier. I think Great Tusk is very good. Not into the current metagame. I would expect to see this guy maybe make a bit of a return once the the old restricted mods come into the game. Screamtail, one of the most annoying mons we have. A whole Encore Disable with booster speed is absolutely just annoying. Dazzling Gleam's obviously an option as well. Super, super duper annoying support Pokemon. This guy here, Brute Bonnet, you're going in the C+ tier. Very similar to what we were saying about guys like Wo Chen. Honestly, I feel like, is that too low for it? Nah, we're gonna leave it there. Very similar to Wo Chen and even Meowscarada. Grass Dark is just such a bad typing. Yeah, I've just realized they're all here together. They're all here together. 3 Grass Darks. The typing is just so bad, it just makes the mon really hard. But look, it hits hard, it has Spore, decently fast Spores as well. If you run max speed in Tailwind, it can outspeed Dragapult, I think. So, maybe there's a niche there. It also hits really hard with Sucker Punch, I guess, as well, which is pretty nice. But yeah, just overall a C+ mon. Now, it looks like we finally have the king. The mon that the S+ tier was made for. Boys, I said it before the format started. When everyone was like, Incin's the best Pokemon in VGC, I said no. Fluttermane's the best goddamn Pokemon in VGC, and that's where it sits there in the S+ tier. I think Chien Pao is arguably the second best mon in the game right now. But Fluttermane, he is numero uno, boys. This is the best. Fairy and Ghost together is absolutely insane. It's one of the fastest mons in the format. It's one of the hardest hitters in the format. It can run Specs, it can run Booster, hell, it can even run Fairy Feather if you really wanted. Fluttermane is the absolute king of VGC right now. Do not at me. Then we have Slitherwing. Unfortunately, very similar to guys like Brute Bonnet and Great Tusk. It's just an underwhelming Paradox mod. It hits really hard. Its stat distribution is not great. I'm actually going to say that this guy here, Sandy Shock's slightly better than the other guys. Booster speed on it's pretty damn decent. I also think this is one where, come the restricted format, will definitely be a lot better. But look, its best partner right now is a Sparthra. Have we even touched on a Sparthra? I don't know if I even put it in the list. But yeah, look, booster speed plus gravity I think is pretty decent. You throw a Sparthra in there, he starts getting speed boost. He starts putting everything to sleep with Hypnosis. Could be definitely very, very annoying. Great Tusk going here with, sorry, not Great Tusk. Iron Tread's going here with Great Tusk. Very similar thing. It's just an underwhelming one. Not fast enough, doesn't hit hard enough, not bulky enough, doesn't have a good enough timing. All I can really say, right? Iron Bundle, I'm going to smack this guy in A tier. Probably doesn't deserve being in the A tier, if I'm being honest, but it's the threat of it that matters, right? It's got Freeze Dry, it's got Icy Wind, it's got Hydro Pump, it's got Encore. It's the fastest Pokemon in the game with Speed Booster on it. Another one too that I think will obviously get a lot better come the restricted format, but still this one has an incredibly good matchup into a lot of what's really good. It's faster than Fluttermane and Chien Pao, so it can get off, the Icy Winds. It's also really good into a lot of the ones in the A tier. If you have a look, things like Raging Bolt, it can Freeze Dry, Dinat, it can Freeze Dry, Entei, it can Hydro Pump, Amoonguss Tornadus, it can Freeze Dry, it can Pump the Incin, it can Freeze Dry the Rillaboom. Just a very, very good Pokemon. Then we have Brian Hands. Brian Hands, you're going in the A tier. This is a mon I'm going to put at the top of A tier, boys. I'm not going to lie. People are sleeping on this mon. Its usage is down, but Brian Hands is still that guy. He is still him. He still absolutely claps. People just need to understand how to adjust this mon, or adapt, I should say. I think Assault Vest, while it's still very good, is not necessarily the only item for it anymore. I do think Clear Amulet and, what's the other one? Clear Amulet and Booster Energy are both very, very good. And I think Close Combat is becoming a must, because Close Combat into things like, you know, for example, Entei and whatnot is very, very good. It's a lot of damage. Also very good into Incineroar as well. Can definitely pick up the one-shot with a Booster Energy, and also, too, with a Clear Amulet. Iron Jugulus, I'm gonna smack you in the B tier because I like this guy. Look, again, this is another one where I think come the restricted formats, when it gets its, you know, it actually gets to use its ability, this mod will definitely become a lot better. But for now, it's in the B tier. Look, it gets Snarl, its bulk is average, it's, you know, it spreads a decent, right? It's decently fast, it's got decent, you know, special attack, but really it's like a Snarl mon, it's an air slash mon. I also think in rain, like if you're running something like Miraidon plus, what's it called? Kyogre. Obviously, you know, if you're pairing with rain, you know, stab hurricanes, style and stuff like that, could definitely be something very, very worth looking at. God, we're almost there, boys. Iron Moth, I love this mon. I think this is another really good booster mon. Another one that too will also benefit a hell of a lot once it actually gets to use its ability. Look, it gets acid spray, it also hits really hard. It also got access to Meteor Beam as well. So that's definitely something here to keep in mind. Very, very Pokemon. I really, really enjoy it. Iron Thorns, to make a point, I'm putting him in the C tier. This is the worst Paradox mon by far, unfortunately. It doesn't really do an awful lot, sadly. Yeah, there's not really much to say. This guy, he's just bad. And then, actually, no, I was going to say, it looks like finally, I think, are these the last guys? Did I already do Roaring Mid? Have I done Roaring Mid? I would have put Roaring Moon in probably like the B+ or A tier, right? Oh, there he is, there, B+. Yeah, there he is. Yeah, Roy Moon, he's already been done. We don't need to see the F tier. Is that it then? Pretty sure we've done all these guys. Yeah, okay, bang. It's just these guys. Baxcalibur, B+. I think Ice type offensively right now is very, very good. And this is probably the second best offensive Ice type in the game to none other than here, Qian Pao. And then the Urshifus, boys. I'm sure you've been looking at it thinking, damn, Scott, that S tier's up. It's pretty low. And yeah, it's because this guy's going here too. Urshi Rapid Strike, don't know why it's shiny, but look, this one, it's busted. It breaks through, protects, right? It also crits always, so it breaks through screens. Hits really freaking hard. Water typing's really good into the format. It loves playing with Tornadus. Yeah, just one of the best mons we have. And then finally, the last mon here too, we've got Urshi Single Strike. He's going to go here in the A+ tier. Very, very similar to what his friend Urshi Rapid Strike does. I would almost argue Urshi Single Strike is better into the format right now than Rapid Strike is, just because everyone's so prepared for Rapid Strike that Urshi Dark at least doesn't really get the attention it kind of deserves. But look, definitely one of the best mons in the format. I've also just realized too, I have not done Registeel. I can't think of anything else besides Registeel that I might be missing. Because of that, I'm going to use this guy here as my second one. I think Registeel is probably a B+ to an A tier mon. For anyone who doesn't know how Registeel works, it basically clicks Iron Defense Body Press. It's really bulky, it hits really hard. And yeah, that's basically it. I'm absolutely freaking exhausted, guys. This took me, you know, over 2 hours at this point. Hopefully by the time I edit it down, it's not quite 2 hours. But yeah, I guess let me know what you think down below. I'll definitely be posting a link to this on Twitter. I guess, you know what, for the purpose of this, let me do this. Yeah, I'm going to do that. It's a hot take. I'm going to just fill up the S tier a bit. I think these are probably like the three best mons that I had in the A+ tier there. Honestly, Latios could probably drop down, but maybe not. I want to be a bit controversial on Twitter. But yeah, I guess that's my list, guys. Let me know what you think of it down below. Obviously, I got very exhausted towards the end. I do apologize if you guys heard me yawning as well. But look, this took me ages. Took me a lot longer. I feel like I definitely rushed through the second half a bit faster. But look, when I'm talking so much shit about all these mons, it ain't that easy. You know, but anyway, boys, you know, look, I say it ain't that easy. You know what they're saying, boys. It's too easy for Scootsy. It's the motto, yeah. Ha. But anyway, boys, look, I'm gonna get out of here. Let me know what you think down below, and yeah, I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.